Hello, and this is Spotlight for Monday, the 27th of January, 2025. I'm Benno.
And I'm JP.
And we're not alone this week, as we are here for a special Monday Spotlight these days. Don't do too many Mondays, but joining us, I was going to give him the full rollout, from such outlets as Fightful, his own outlet, True Heel Heat. I'm pretty sure I was on the Wrestle Talk website the other day and there was a news story from Sid. He's everywhere. He was humble bragging to us on the pre-show. Sports Illustrated, I think, counts as well. It's the one and only, as you may have heard from the Grapple Christmas show, SP3. How's it going, mate?
What's going on? I'm happy to be here on the Grapple main podcast proper. The Spotlight. I'm here.
How long have we been talking about it?
We've been talking about it since I was back in the UK. I'm going to be back in the UK pretty soon, but I was back in the UK last summer. We were talking about this.
Oh, we had to have you on, mate. Popular demand after the Ask Grapple show. I think a lot of it was late in the night, and you brought the energy, mate, and you got us going again, and you got me all riled up about Cody. So I'm looking forward to possibly an argument today as well. But yeah, people might have seen me over on Sid shows. We've done a couple of previews and such together, haven't we? Always feel like it's a home away from home when I do True Heel Heat on those Saturday afternoons. It's a cracking schedule for us, JP. Like I'll jump on at 4, done by 7. Still got me Saturday night to go. There might be something to that we could learn from a scheduling point of view, but. I was going to say, fucking hell, Sid, leave some outlets for the rest of us. Like, what's going on? Like, who are you working for now? Is there anybody I missed off that list? He is the biggest free agent, I reckon, in wrestling podcasting, as well as having all those jobs.
What I've learned is that if you are an independent contractor, you can work for multiple places. Don't sign contracts, people. That's what I'm teaching pro wrestlers as well. Don't sign those contracts. They'll keep you locked up for 3 years. Just work with it different places. Say, Matt Cardona. I'm the Matt Cardona of wrestling media. I'm just going everywhere.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I'll take it. It's good. It's good.
Hey, I'm not going to complain that no one signed me to a contract.
That's
mate, as long as it's not busted open radio, because I've had my fucking fill of seeing or hearing anything with those lads.
I try my best to never lean towards the shilling. So no, I will not be on busted open radio.
Good enough for me, mate. That's good enough for me.
Oh, walking through the forbidden door, mate. We obviously were together, weren't we? What was the show last year, JP? Your call.
It was the MJF match.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we met Joe as well.
Was it Uprising? I feel like I'm saying that because that might be the show that's happening in a couple of weeks.
Summer Sizzle. I know that because the photo has got me and Sid together and we're both literally covered head to toe in sweat. I've got a Grapple t-shirt on that is not too big for me. It's just hanging off because it's that fucking sweaty. Like it was the MJF one, wasn't it? It was all going in there that night.
Yeah, it was a really fun show. That was my fourth Rev Pro show. I've been to the UK a couple of times now, so yeah, that was a lot of fun. A fun show. Other than it was way too hot in there. And thankfully, I ran into you because having that conversation, I got dry and a little bit. I was all sweaty when I came out because it was much hotter in the balcony. So I came down, chatted with you, and I felt good because I had all that air towards me on the floor.
I said it was like on your show. I think JP witnessed this, but like when you were walking past, I was like, Sid, no reaction. I went SP3, turn right round. You're like me. If I was at a show and somebody shouted Richard, though, I'd probably be like, well, that can't possibly be for me, can it? Benno, I'll turn right round. But you were a big time on us, mate.
No, it literally is like a funny thing because when I go to like different wrestling trips, I used to hang out with my good friend Cher Delaware. We would go to like to Chicago for like All Out and stuff, and I would introduce. I actually met someone who worked with AEW, and I met her, and I was like, "Hey, my name is Sid," and she's like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you." And then Cher's like, that's SP3. And she's like, oh, yeah, I know you from social. So I learned that I'm no longer Sid if I walk into a wrestling space. I'm SP3.
That's the rule. But yeah, we're made to have you on, mate. We've got obviously a big show to run through with you today. We'll keep the plug short, JP, to be kind to sit on here. But obviously, for those who are watching for the first time or we've followed them over perhaps from True Heat or one of his many other endeavours, maybe that old Alex Picardi thing used to do with Steph as well. There's a couple of one-off appearances on that myself. There'll be people from all over for this one, JP. But we're at the very end of a busy January. we had a great 5-1 show this weekend, top 5. It was. We kind of do it. We do it like once every few months, Sid, where we usually do like our top 5 favorite things in wrestling as like a bonus Patreon show, or like favorite shows we've been to. We'll usually do an off-topic one. I think what we found is the negative, unbelievably, it being me, and you're used to that with me coming on your show on Saturdays. Yeah. The negative has actually been a better selling point, because this week we did top 5 most hated non-wrestlers and top 5 most hated television programs, and it's probably the best received show we've done in a while. Always the fucking way, innit?
That's interesting. I would have to think about that. The top 5 most
hated
non-wrestlers ever?
A worst non-wrestler or a most hated non-wrestler we went with, or a most hated TV show.
Let me hear y'all's number 1. What was y'all's number?
What did you go with, JP?
For the TV shows?
Oh, both.
Okay. So
give one. We won't say what number it is. We won't give away the number 1.
Okay, you don't have to tell me what number. Just give me one person from your list.
I'll give you one, and this one kind of was really surprised people, given what I'm like. I put Byron Saxton in there for some reason. I get really kind of like upset.
That one felt personal.
It did. I don't know why. Because he comes across. I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. I just cannot listen to him talk.
I can't say you're wrong, because as a black man that has a proper vocabulary, I've been accused of being too smart or being a little bit whitewashed. But if you want to know what a whitewashed black dude is,
wow. Well, I've got two. I don't think they were JP's reasons, but he had them. They existed too.
I'm just giving you mine, where I would be like, you know what? You're on to something there.
You know what? He kind of sums up that, like, saying anything, talking head. I said to JP, I feel like he was on JP's list as like an avatar for all of the third man in the booth, got nothing to say commentators who just repeat what the other two said, and just there is like the Vince McMahon mouthpiece, or whoever is in their ear mouthpiece. Like, he's kind of, for me, I don't notice him. That's like his biggest sin. And to be honest, with commentary, sometimes that's a pro. But yeah, I could understand why JP had so much hate in his heart for him. I'll give you one of mine. I had Alex Abrahantes on mine, because that's a probably predictable one for Grapple listeners. You'd probably expect a little bit less predictable. I had Tony Khan on my list as well. But I'll go into the reasons for that on show as well.
That's a good one.
And there's one. I'll say one more, and I'm not giving you any of my reasons. This is just a teaser for the show. Was it on my honorable mentions? Did it make it on my list? But we did have a discussion about Stone Cold Steve Austin as one of the worst non-wrestlers of all time.
That was my reaction, Sid.
Come at me, folks.
You mean GM Austin?
Come at me, folks.
Yeah,
come at me, folks.
I'm coming at you. But when you mentioned that, I started formulating a list in my head, and mainly the first person that came to mind, Mike Adamle.
Oh, did he come off?
Mike Adamle. I can't remember
if we discussed that.
Mike Adamle is an all-time worst non-wrestler. And then if I think of like current, Corey Graves. I'm sorry. And one thing that I don't like, I can understand if you're a bad commentator. I can understand if you're a good commentator. But if Vince McMahon makes you into a bad commentator when you were a good commentator, that annoys me more than anything. And that's Corey Graves.
Sums him up.
Corey Graves,
and he's a cunt.
Good. He was good in NXT. Yeah, I'm just basing it on what he does with the thing that he said he's fucking awesome at. So I'm just saying, you're not that awesome at it. So I don't like you, and you're an entitled prick as well.
Steph's saying here, and I wish I'd thought of Alex Marvez.
No, he'd be a good one.
Although there's that weird thing where those segments with Kenny and Don Callis back in the day, I did kind of enjoy them, not really because of him, but it was just the wackiness of the scenario that he would turn up in a school while Kenny Omega is telling a load of like preschoolers about his match with Okada at Wrestle Kingdom.
Alex Marvez doesn't offend me enough to be on my list. It's like he's not even there sometimes.
Yeah, which is the problem. He shouldn't be there. Is the issue there? But yeah, there's loads of ones where it was just like as soon as somebody said something, like you'd be like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about, like, for example, Linda McMahon, or I've forgotten about that person or that ex-manager. So we could easily do a second list. I think probably just on McMahon's. We could probably find a way to do at some point. We were saying we could do it. Speaking of commentators, we could just do a pure top 5 commentators, and I don't think we scorched that earth. I think that's the thing. Wrestling has got an unlimited supply of terrible commentators, and outside of maybe one that turns up on Garrett's list, there was a lot of them left alone that we could have gone with.
You know what's a great topic I just thought of? Worst era of each McMahon. Like,
last 20 years, maybe?
when I thought about it, no, I'm just like this, like Shane McMahon. What's his worst era? Shane Down Live's Shane McMahon in the late 2010 when SmackDown became all about him. What's the worst era of Stephanie McMahon? Authority of Stephanie McMahon. That's the worst era, where she created women's wrestling, takes credit for everything that she didn't do. What's the worst era of Triple H? Not knowing how to do long-term storytelling, Triple H for me, but technically for everybody else, it would be Reign of Terror, Triple H. Then you got like
JP agrees.
Oh yeah, he was my number one most hated wrestler of all time, and it was just for the simple reason he was like, he fucked his way to the top. I can't be respecting that.
And we all forget it. We all pretend it didn't happen, don't we? It's just normal now. It's like, yeah, he's part of the family. What's the issue?
Like, yeah, of course it is. It's just a magic coincidence that you married.
Those 2000s message board posters no differently, we lived through it.
Oh, exactly. We do. But the Reign of Terror one, we also did a podcast on that, which is it felt incredibly painful to do that as well. There were some bits of that just you still get angry about to this day, and you think I should have gotten over this by now. This was over 20 years ago.
We're here, JP. When you just said Triple H your most hated wrestler, I was like, I've been accused of being a Triple H hater for the better part of 2 decades. Like, I have not liked him. I've always said, if Triple H drank or wasn't a cheater, he would not be where he is today. Because the fact that he didn't drink is why he was the designated driver for the Clique. And the fact that he's a cheater is why he cheated on China with Stephanie. If he didn't do those things, he wouldn't be where he is today.
That's it. Oh, mate. Amen to that, brother, honestly. And all I'll say is that the non-wrestler and the hated wrestlers, there is a bit of a parallel between the two, which will keep you happy. I promise.
Triple H was already, like, before he even got with Stephanie, like, those of us who were in the trenches, I remember reading Power Slam magazine or jumping on message boards. He was already a hate figure. He was already known as the guy who was politicking his way to the top. That was a thing he added afterwards, and, like, it was conversation for us for the last 10 years. But I think there's a lot of these kids who are just too young, who didn't live through it. They've just been born into the Papa H era, or they've been born into Triple H, the legendary wrestler era, which, with JP, I would question at times as well. But good to see him getting a little bit of hate, and some of his family members get a bit of hate on that 5-1 as well, mostly coming from JP too. But yeah, that's up on the Patreon. I'd ask you, I don't know if we'd have this in common with you, Sid, as far as like worst. We did do an off-topic one on worst TV shows of all time. Most of it, I can't imagine you got a strong take on Mrs. Brown's Boys or Only Fools and Horses, but the types of things that came up for our British listeners. I had the second half of Game of Thrones on there, not the first half. Great, it's one of them where they can remember that year in, like, I think it was like 2010, where like you could make an argument for like Sheamus being the best wrestler in WWE and also the worst wrestler in WWE because of the way they pushed them. There's been a lot of those parallels with people, hasn't there, over the years. It's one of them. It fits that for me, Game of Thrones, where it's like you could argue it's the best, you could also argue it's the worst. But I don't know if you'd have a shout that you throw in there for worst TV show of all time.
I thought about it before you said what you said, but it even makes even more sense after you say that about Game of Thrones. Heroes post season 1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
Oh my God. Heroes, the TV show, is Ronda Rousey's WWE career. First season, it hit. It was one of the greatest things ever. But every time after, it was not that good.
It fell off a cliff. It just the way it fell off a cliff, it went from event watching to just I cannot watch this. And it had the speed with which that happened, and how basically none of the cast like really made it in any way. I think other than your man who played Spock and does stuff, and even then wasn't a big star. Was it Elisha Cuthbert was the big star, and she never went on to do anything of any kind of substance as well.
Hayden Panettiere was in
was
in Scream 4, and she was in the most recent Scream as well. That's really kind of the most. I know she's done other TV shows and stuff like that, but yeah, she should have been like a huge star coming off that first season. But no one's career was able to survive the demise of Heroes.
There's that era where everyone was trying to do a box set, wasn't it? It's like that Peep Show quote, isn't it, JP? It was like, you know, we tried the flash forwards and they had some interesting themes, and then we tried Prison Break, but then Prison Break became the prison that we were trying to break out of it. But once we got to season 3, and it's like all of those shows, so many of them were like perfect 1-season arcs, and it was like, yeah, but we want to make some money. We need 5 seasons worth of DVDs to flog, and we want it to still be on telly. So let's just drag this story out forever. Some of those sacred cows do get flogged on our show as well, don't they, JP?
It's crazy.
Oh, they do.
It's crazy because I really feel like if the Heroes came out in like this era, it probably would have still had people connected. Because you know what I feel like is like Heroes in a way that season 1 is the best season, and every other season after it. Even though I'm still invested and I'm gonna be watching the last season, Stranger Things. The season 1 is the perfect 1-season arc. And then they just kept coming back and doing the same thing every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And the problem is you get to a point with these shows where you've invested so much time and you go, it's like Walking Dead is the best example of it. It's just like, oh, I'm just finishing this off like it's a job. Like I watched the last series of that and I went, it's a soap opera. 2 people will have a row, a zombie will slowly creep up, and then you think, oh, is it going to get? No, they're just going to turn around and stab it in the eye. And then you go, right, okay, here we go. Just for another pointless rat. Honestly, there was so disappointing. And the
love that from Andy in the chat, by the way. NWA in the pandemic, same thing. Peak Fast went down the pan. Remember how excited we were for that 605 and the music and the promos. Half of the AEW great promos. Kingston, Starks, all of them. Yeah, that kind of went to shit, didn't it?
LA Knight.
God.
Some of the top guys in AEW and WWE started there.
Both. There you go. Yeah, Starks being a big one as well. So it's a good example. But yeah, to throw that out there, like I say, we do go through a lot of different shows. You'll hear JP's thoughts on Only Fools and Horses even in there as a teaser, and a couple of British sitcom Sacred Cows that Gareth slaughters. Promise you, if you enjoy us on here, you will love that show. You can buy it on our Patreon right now for the low cost of £3, or if you like, and with Dealer's Choice month coming up, JP, and we have set the order for Dealer's Choice next month. It's going to be me first, then JP, then Gareth, then Matty. Basically just the spotlight order. We did it randomly. That's just how it figured out, but I'll be picking my show first, and yeah, it's going to be a big month. So if you want to join us, now is the perfect time. The price of the package is going up, as we keep saying in February. We're putting the base tier of Patreon up £1 and the live tier as well. But if you join us today or any day before February the 1st, you'll get it at the current price, and you'll be locked in at the current price for as long as you never ever cancel. So you could keep it for the next 10 years if you like, because we'll still be making content like this in 10 years, won't we, JP? So no better time than now to jump on the Patreon.
Hey, absolutely. And if you want an example of some of the stuff we've done this month as well, obviously we mentioned about the most hated shows on there as well. You're going to be doing a Royal Rumble 2001 flashback. We did a Steen versus a Jericho. It was 2 King of the Mountain picks. We had first one, Simon
Generico, not Jericho. We all kept making that mistake.
Oh my God.
That'll be a very different thing.
That again. Oh yeah. I'd never want to see that. Or the Festival of Friendship and the disappointing ending of that. Yeah, Kevin Steen versus El Generico. Make sure I got that one right. And then also Tokyo Joshi Pro. Finally, that was picked. That button was pressed. To quote you for this, that was suggested by you and Cameron as well. So we've had that one into the mix, and obviously there is an episode of Retro that is also going to be coming out as well. And then you get all the goodness, like the pre-show that we had on here beforehand, the weekend news show as well. Love doing that on Fridays or Thursdays if it's going to be, and I think it's Thursday this week, because we've got the Royal Rumble as well coming up. So yeah, loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of brilliant stuff. And if you haven't heard Dealer's Choice before, you'll love it. We all choose a topic, and everyone else has to go through it. And I know for me, there's always the one of, am I going to make you eat your greens? Am I going to make you watch things like When Worlds Collide? Or sit through a Bam Bam Bigelow mixtape, which I instantly regretted the moment I started doing the homework for. I went, oh no, I fucked up here, haven't I?
I reckon you're going to make up for it. It's going to be 2.0, JP. We'll do the Bam Bam Bigelow, the lost years, and it'll be an even better tape. I believe in you.
I couldn't do that. I've picked mine, but I'm terrified. Well, it's only you. As long as you don't pick it. If you pick it, I am fucked. There's no way of getting around this as well. But yeah, get all of that good stuff at patreon.com/grapple, or become a YouTube member at youtube.com/@grapple.
Well, with all that said, we should get into the week's wrestling, and obviously we're going to talk some AEW and the big summer coming up, and lots of big shows, tickets moving for some and not for others. We're going to talk about bit of Tony Khan's creative, bit of Moxley chat, bit of Kenny Ospreay chat as well. Timeless Tony, obviously a big part of the discussion too. But before we get there, we do have Sid on to talk some WWE with us as well, as it was Saturday night's main event on Saturday night, and yeah, I stayed up late for my sins again on Saturday. Didn't learn my lesson last time. I found it an easier watch this time. I will set my stall out right away. I learned my lesson. I'm guessing you were in the US the first Saturday night's main event, Sid, because here in the UK we had that international feed that was on a unlisted YouTube link that you had to like either be a hacker or have a mate who knew to get that link. So it just didn't appear on the YouTube homepage. This one did, so that's good. At least there was that improvement there, and I learnt my lesson. Because again, we don't really understand American TV, but what we realised, or at least what I realised with Saturday night's main event last time, network TV is a very different fucking beast, and those ad breaks were coming thick and fast. So this time, I made use of the fact that Collision was on at the same time, did a little bit of flipping channels, watched a little bit of that, only had to suffer through that horrendous instrumental song for the ad breaks once or twice on it as well, but overall, and I'll throw straight to you, Sid, like I did feel like they timed it out better this time. I think that a big part of the problem last time was they packed too many matches into like a small amount of time and didn't really consider, the pacing of the show and how it would come across. Felt like they learned the lesson a little bit this time. Felt a little bit more lightweight, I would say, than the first Saturday night's main event. You can already feel maybe the importance level of the show sliding just a little bit from the last time, just based on the promotion and some of the weird promotion in that, like, Hogan was supposed to be on there and then rightly they pulled him, but that was something that you didn't really hear about until last minute. Jesse Ventura was kind of sneaking it out like last minute, and with all the Netflix stuff going on, I didn't feel like they promoted it as heavy. But throw it to you, hot take first. I thought it was a stronger show than first time out, if a less newsworthy one. But what say you?
This was WWE Battle of the Belts.
Wow.
It was WWE Battle of the Belts. It was an inconsequential show that if you missed it, you did not miss anything. Just watch the YouTube clip of Jacob Fatu murdering Braun Strowman. Call it a day.
You've got
nothing on this show was worth anything it was valued at. Thankfully, I did the post show on Fightful for Saturday Night's Main Event and the AEW Collision, and my good friend Rick Ucchino said, "I'm going to be mostly covering WWE Saturday Night's Main Event, so can you mostly cover AEW Collision?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And 9 times out of 10, I was more focused because this was honestly, in my opinion, this was the best effort Tony Khan has put up against a WWE show in maybe 2 years.
Usually they lie down.
They usually lie down. I'd be like, I'd be on the shows, on the post shows, on True OE, be like, yo, fight back. You're just gonna let them punch you in the mouth? Come to your like the last time they came to Wednesday, when NXT came to Wednesday, I was like, they gonna come to your night and punch you in the mouth, and you're just gonna take it? But they came on Saturday, and Tony was fighting back. Like, I had my friend messaging me like, oh, I wonder if something good's gonna happen with Cody and KO. And I waited like 5 minutes after he sent the message, and I was like, I don't really care because Tony and Mariah are stealing the show from them right now. I'm focused on that right now. That was a great segment. The Cody and Kevin Owens, I was like, nothing they said was worth anything. It wasn't the best promo you heard from Kevin Owens. It got a couple of people excited who think Shawn Michaels is coming back to wrestle, and I'm like, please go watch Crown Jewel 2018 before you think about that. The opener, Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax, they always work really well together. So that was a pretty fun matchup. The second match, Braun and Sheamus, I wanted more of that because they were going really well. They had a very good matchup. But if it got like 5 more minutes, I probably think it would be a better match because it was like 12 minutes, and they took out like 5 minutes with a commercial break. So it was like I only got a little bit of that. I wanted a little bit more. But like the main event, very good matchup. But San Antonio, man, what a crowd that was, because they actually believed Jey Uso was going to win that match. And I did not. I did not.
That spear didn't sell you on main event, Jim. Jay, sorry.
I just want him to stop. Just stop doing the spear. Like, you're not good at it. You're not, and there's like 4 other guys who do the same move, and they do it a lot better than you. There's a guy on the show, Braun Breaker, who did the spear earlier in the night. Why are you even doing
much better
the spear?
spot?
You should not be doing the spear. Why are you doing that? But very good matchup between them. Gunther, when the bell rings, it's all good. It's when the bell rings the second time when they go back to booking him very horribly. And then the Jacob Fatu angle, best part of the show.
Yeah, I think Jacob's the headline coming out of it, isn't it, JP?
He is the headline. Even if I did feel like in my head, I think I'd built up the actual match itself was going to be a lot more sort of spectacular. Like I thought that match to see Goldberg was going to be versus Goldberg
what Rhea and Nia was. Yeah, or what like even Braun and Sheamus was. I thought that was going to be the Goliath one, and actually thought Rhea Ripley and Jax had a better version of that match. Whereas on the weekend show, JP, when we were previewing it, we were like, give them 30 seconds and get onto the good stuff, which is going to be the 2 lads smashing shit out of each other. Yeah, that match ended up turning into a big nothing, but it was more about getting Jacob over, obviously.
I forgot to say how much I hate the finish. I
too much ass.
I think the finish that I hate the most in wrestling is person kicks too much ass, must disqualify. I'm sorry, it makes the referee look dumb. The person takes a loss that they didn't need to take. Why are we protecting Braun Strowman in 2025? Is it 2017? What the fuck are we doing?
Get these hands, come on. That still gets over. Still sell t-shirts. No, don't. No.
Still doing the choo-choo train stuff as well. I mean, that bothered me.
I've got a soft spot for him, but you're not wrong.
Same here. The idea of this being 5 minutes long, because he doesn't mean anything in this day and age. So it was the idea of Jacob has that crowd connection, and hearing that crowd and the crowd like chanting Jacob, you're like, when I was watching you in MLW, mate, like sometimes botching fucking top of the cage moonsaults and all sorts. I didn't see this. Like, I really didn't see this, but he's absolutely, he's got something with it as well. And again, he should have just been doing, it's like the Bronson Reed playbook. Just repeat.
It really was.
Again and again and again.
It's copy paste, wasn't it?
Yeah, copy paste. And it works. It absolutely works. Like for that in the moment. And then
it's me and TW. One thing works, so I'm just like, you know what? I'll book it again next week with me other big man. They literally, it was literally move for move, right up until like them trying to stop him, and he's going up to the top rope, and there's like the crowd of agents trying to stop him. To be honest, I actually thought it was too familiar. It was too similar. It was still effective. It still worked, but it did feel like a rerun. Like, and obviously Jacobs, got much more upside, and so you've got to do this with him, and you want to get him over. Although I do feel like he kind of came out of it more of a babyface than a heel. Was the other point I was going to make on it.
And I think the finish plays into that as well, because why would the fans boo him? He got screwed.
Yeah, totally.
And this is the thing with him. Imagine if I would have been, like, say, the familiarity, a bit of a problem, but if he had just sort of basically killed Braun Strowman in 2 minutes. And then had done this afterwards of just cementing, I'm the monster here. That's my role here. I'm taking that on like fully throated. You just be like, yeah, this is the guy to go with as well. And that crowd connection, it's there. It's there really already. He just has the whole kind of thing down. And it was such a takeaway from a show like this, which, as you say, it felt like we're already into contractual obligations with NBC, aren't we?
It felt like a Paris pay-per-view, didn't it? Whereas I would argue the matches were good, like the content was good, but like how many of those B shows from last year, JP, did we sit here and go, yeah, that happened, but actually now that I'm thinking about it, we'll be reviewing it on a Tuesday going, no, that matters now. And there's no consequence to anything we just saw. We're just moving on, and it's like we had a great crowd, that's the story, and then that's that. Like, that is a big part of like Triple H's playbook. He kind of treated this like he treats some of those international shows.
And I think that's the killer for this for Saturday Night's Main Event, because I probably went in lower expectations. I said this on the weekend show, that really I thought for the most part this will be a series of matches and infomercial for Royal Rumble, which is kind of what it should be. Yeah. I mean, in many ways, if you're on network TV, your hope would be that's what you'll do. That's what you want to push, and you just want to go like getting people excited for the Rumble. And there wasn't even that much stuff in terms of like Rumble things that happened. That was one of the weirder things. I kept on thinking, you've kind of missed an opportunity here for this. This was like your last, like, kind of big show on network TV week before the Rumble. You kind of almost should have, like, you should be playing the classic music and doing a rundown of all the people who are announced so far, because particularly on the men's side, it's so
bit of nostalgia. Play that old theme, you know.
Oh, they should be going to that. For a company that's suddenly realized, actually, you can use nostalgia, not in the way that Vince would use nostalgia, which was just like to the detriment of anything that was current and modern. Just using the nostalgia, like nostalgic, like aesthetic around it, the music, the settings and things like that. But again, for this show, rather like, say, the second week of Raw on Netflix, it was focusing on, well, these are the people who are going to be around, rather than, you know, Dwayne and the Taker and all the rest of it, and not bothering with that kind of stuff. And I think for this one, it effectively, like you say, it's sort of supplanted a role of just like a kind of a standard kind of show, and they're selling 15,000 tickets for them. They're just doing such monster fucking business. It's ridiculous.
It's Nick Carnball in every way, isn't it? Because, like, why run a live show in an arena somewhere so you can sell some t-shirts when you could put it on TV and, you know, sell it to a network? And also, in a world where SmackDown's moved off network TV and obviously Raw's not on cable anymore, it's that shop window, isn't it? Which, like you said, JP, they're not taking advantage of enough. But you can see the play, can't you? Like, okay, if we've got those quarterly specials or whatever often Saturday Night's Main Event ends up being long term, at least we've still got that presence. At least we're still there for people to throw the telly on and still see, like, WWE content. It's clearly, like, part of the big plan in there as well. But yeah, I kind of share your thoughts on that. Like I say, the Jacob presentation on the show was very much, it was like SmackDown this week. My only note I had on SmackDown pretty much was that Jacob promo backstage when he's walking behind Tama Tonga, and then they just did it again on Saturday Night's Main Event. So I was like, okay, there goes my only SmackDown talking point. But fucking hell, how cool was that? That's come out thinking of him. That's the biggest thing you come out of thinking of, and he's someone that they're massively getting right now. I didn't think Gunther and Jay was up to much, and it was never going to be, because it's Jey Uso in the matches. The bell's always got to ring, and he'll always be over to the point that he's over. And this is, if he's going to be main event Jay, this is the type of main event he can do, an NBC main event on a Saturday on telly. Like, that's his Joel. Oh, that's his role. And like you said, Sid, like, yeah, there's going to be people in the crowd who are going to buy it, who are going to take the near falls in there. But it was a lower end Gunther effort for me. But like, I just want to, like, put some shine on it. Honestly, like, I might be going mad. I might have been delusional. I genuinely thought Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax was maybe the match of the night. And I've pushed against this narrative that Nia Jax has gotten any better. Like, it's been all over our Discord. It's like, no, you don't see it. She's better. Like, no, she's still shit. And we've had that argument with Matty over and over again, that no, she's still shit. And just because people are ironically enjoying her being a shit doesn't mean she's not shit. I actually thought this was a good night for her. I thought they did a really good, like, it was well agented. It felt very Paul Heyman. It felt very, like, you know, there wasn't much between the big spots, but the big spots were laid out well. It was two like big presences colliding together, and it was, if you're going to watch anything from the show, yeah, I think watch Jacob, watch him destroy someone. But I think as a match, it was maybe between that and Bron Breakker Sheamus, and I've got a lot of love for Bron Breakker, and maybe I agree with you, said it could, if it had gone longer, it'd been better. But it was a surprise for me that I enjoyed that so much, and I'm wondering if I'm going to join the ironic Nia fans now and be a Carcanian member.
I've been shooting in the Nia Jax gym for a long time, because her theme song is one of my favorite theme songs to sing if I'm live at a WWE show. Her original one, not this new one. This new one is not as fun as "It's Not Like Most Girls." I love that. But, I really think that she did improve, especially coming back to WWE, because they mainly had her focus on just be a monster heel. And that's what she did all the way up until she wins the King of the Ring tournament. And then they just decided, hey, Nia, you can go out there and you can try a Hurricane Rana against Bayley. You can go out there and you can swing the chair in the War Games matchup on all these women, even though you're not an expert at swinging chairs. And we literally have interviews with Jade Cargill talking about how she had to learn how to swing a chair in AEW. And apparently Nia Jax did not receive that same training in WWE, especially if you saw the Women's War Games matchup. So she had a horrible matchup with Bayley at Bad Blood. She had one of the worst matches of the year with Liv Morgan at Crown Jewel.
Yep.
And then she had an all-time War Games worst performance in November at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
But ironically enough, towards the end of her reign, the match with Naomi on TV, really good matchup where she loses the women's world champion, the women's title to Tiffany Stratton in the post-match. And then ever since then, I have not had complaints because when she's not the champion, they don't tell her to go out there and try stuff she's not good at.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key. When Nia does stuff that she's not good at, she is
That's
awful.
when it goes to
and
shit.
Benno
Yeah.
is 100% right. But when she does simple stuff, just work the big man style, work like you're freaking Kane in 1998. She's good at that stuff. She's good.
Maybe I've turned JP. I don't know if it turned you, but did you have any thoughts on it on that one, or Bron Breakker and Sheamus, or is the most of the thoughts on Bron and Sheamus on another sterling Jesse Ventura commentary performance? Which I was worried we weren't going to get on this.
Yeah,
but, I very much enjoyed that.
His slagging of the IC title, considering he was of an era where he was still the bloody work rate champion, was like, mate, what are you on there?
You can't stop him, can you? He'll go off on one about you pansies. Oh, cold are you? It's just snowing a bit, and he's cutting he turns away from the hard cam in a way that if Vince McMahon was still there, be driving him and fucking Kevin Dunn insane. And they're just politely trying to move him back round and move him back on subject. He's a fucking whirlwind, and I love every second of it.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah,
that is the great thing, because that's baked into the cake with him. He's a maverick. He's a proper fucking maverick. He was a maverick as a commentator. He was a maverick when he was governor of Minnesota. He was a maverick when he was doing all manner of his TV stuff. So him doing it here never feels like a surprise. It's just, I suppose, in many ways, he's never going to be the Jesse Ventura of my childhood, and that's kind of fine. I'm not expecting him to be. And he's still enjoyable enough that I'm fine for him coming out for these kind of appearances. And he's making good coins. I'm sure he's absolutely fine with the whole deal as well. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to add for sort of Rhea Ripley and Nia. It just sort of felt it's a way of getting through that story to where obviously who's going to be challenging her at Mania and whatnot. And I think there's only two people I could imagine who are going to be into that kind of position. So it was just a way of sort of I don't know, circling that square, if that even is any kind of a phrase in it. In terms of Bron and Sheamus, I think, like you say, give it a bit more time and it could be better. The best place, and Matty had said this before, career versus title, WrestleMania, Sheamus wins the title. You get that great moment. You get the extended kind of pop as well. It wasn't the night for it. And it did the job that I thought it would do. Of he came close, but Bron is too strong. You're still going to give Bron, let's face it, in the Rumble, he's probably going to be the guy who's up there with most eliminations. And you're still going to have him in a big featured place in the middle of one of the 2 days of Mania. So it's not like he's going to be losing anything. And he's been such a success coming to the main roster, because I just think of his time in NXT and I didn't care. And weirdly, it was the best thing. It was it was the perfect example of what NXT should be. It ironed out a lot of the kinks for him to then go up to main roster where he feels like he's part of it. So I thought, like you say, in terms of the matches, I have relatively low expectations for this. And because I'm watching in the morning when I've gotten up, I'm just able to fast forward my way through all of the commercial breaks. So it just becomes an hour and 25-minute long fun show.
I really feel like Triple H, though, is overthinking how to book Bron Breakker. Keep it simple. Just have him be a destroyer. The fact that he came and he lost that first match to Sammy for the Intercontinental Championship, then he beats him at SummerSlam, only holds it for a month and a half, loses it to Jay just so Jay can get screwed by the bloodline, and he wins it back. And then for the past 2 months, he's been in the front row and backstage more than he's actually wrestled. This is a horrible Intercontinental title reign. I said it before, most of the WWE and AEW champions suck right now. They are not well booked at all. And the Nia Rhea, like you said, the match was really good. The story heading into it makes absolutely no sense. Nia Jax lost the WWE Women's Championship. Tiffany Stratton manipulated her, got into a false sense of security, cashed in on her, and instead of going back after Tiffany, she went for the other champion. Wait, what happened? Like it does not. That does. If you write it down on paper, that does not make any type of sense. And I think that the WWE's level of goodwill needs to be examined because nobody says the issues and the logicals in WWE television because they're so hot right now.
When you're hot, you get away with it.
That's the point. Just going to say that, and you've completely summed it up. Well, great there, Sid. Which is, if AEW did that, how would we react? You know, what would our reaction to all of that be?
Case in point, like, and what half of the reason I wanted you on, mate, because I know you've got strong opinions on this. Imagine, like, I thought the worst segments of the weekend, and I did think the show was a better structured, better matches than last time. Just, you know, clearly a lesser show compared to how they promoted it last time. But nobody can defend to me what they did in the Cody and Kevin Owens segment. Like, why is Shawn Michaels the last man standing? Like, what year have we gone back to? Like, that is pure click bollocks, innit? It's still in them. Like, wasn't there a clip that came out of Triple H coming out in Shawn's hat and getting a big chuckle from the crowd? I think at the live event. Like, the two of them are still backstage, still fucking little teenagers elbowing each other, going, "We're the real stars, though, aren't we?" Because, like, how do you defend that? Like, even if we'd had, like, you know, Sean, it's the super kick on Kevin Owens, and that goes into Cody Rhodes hitting the crossroads or something like that. At least the focus is then on Cody Rhodes. Came out of that segment, so we're going to talk the Royal Rumble now. Like, is the hook for the Rumble now? Shawn Michaels versus Kevin. Like, Kevin Owens should be saying no to that. Like, somebody should be saying no to that. Cody should be saying no to that. There's been, you know, things said about Cody fighting his corner on certain things to do. I wish he'd fucking fight it harder because he's losing me. Like, first he gets fucking beaten by The Rock on the Raw on Netflix debut. Like, generally speaking, I just think his booking has been substandard over the last year, and he's somehow managed to keep his head above water. I think, as you were talking about on our Scrapple, Sid, is like, you know, not the favoured child in any way, but still somehow sells all that merch, still somehow feels like a world champion. It's almost a miracle at times, would you see, some of the scrubs they put him with against this last year. And now we've actually got a story that works for him, and it's probably the best program he's been in with Owens, because Owens is doing a great job carrying his end of it. And then, when the camera on, it's all about fucking Shawn Michaels at the end of it. Like, almost turned me into one of the retro boys. I was, couldn't believe it.
I don't know what's happened for the start of 2025, but we are really starting to see who taught Triple H how to book. Because the Raw on Netflix premiere was a Vince McMahon 2010's anniversary reunion show in to AT. And this segment on this show that is supposed to be like an infomercial, you could do a segment. That's not bad. But when the focus of the segment ends off with NXT executive producer Shawn Michaels, I don't know what you want me to do here.
Making sure to put his hat back on so you don't see his fucking bald spot. Ugh. Reminded me how much you don't like presentation.
That was the one part of the Saturday Swing event that I didn't watch in full because I was kind of locked in on the Tony and Mariah segment that was on at the same time. So I went back and watched it the following morning, and I was just like, well, that was nothing. I was like, everything they said. I was like, everything they've said before. It wasn't the best Kevin Owens promo, best Cody Rhodes promo. And I agree with you. This Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens rivalry feels like the first time Cody's had a story to sink his teeth into that doesn't involve the bloodline. But then when you really think about it, because we're like 5 days away from the blow off, the ladder match, really think about this rivalry because it started all the way back, guys, in August. When they did the babyface versus babyface angle and Bash in Berlin. October is when they do the bus angle. So we literally are going on a 6-month rivalry here. Now let's be honest about this. I feel like I'm becoming the Cody hater on Grapple, but think about it. Why is Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens an entertaining and good story? It's Kevin Owens. It's not Cody.
Yeah, it's true. No,
it literally could be anyone. It could be anyone.
I'll let you say it. Matty can't say it. You're allowed. That's fine.
It's not disagree. Cody Rhodes. Like, I love Cody Rhodes. I want him to do well. I think that he's one of the greatest number 2 stars WWE's ever had. But if I really think about the one storyline, and especially if his title reign is going to end sometime this year, we might just say that the only good story that he had throughout his whole entire reign was Kevin Owens, and that was basically because of Kevin Owens.
Especially if he loses the politicking, and it looks like he has, as far as Mania goes. Dwayne's out the way. He didn't just lose in, like, whatever the fuck they did on the Netflix debut. Roman and Punk are getting paid off together. Like the big boys are sitting at the back of the school bus laughing at you because Cody sat at the front with like 50-year-old John Cena, who I'm not sure that's gonna work. I'm not sure it'll feel like a big enough match, but it's not gonna feel like the big match of WrestleMania, and that's gonna be another like time where that happens.
I'm so confused on who they're gonna book as the heel in that. Like you got white
maybe
meat,
Cody.
babyface.
If they go there,
Cody would be the one.
If we go that, like Punk's long reign, if we go the like he slowly turns heel during the reign, and we get the real Cody World title reign as a heel from like WrestleMania onto next year's WrestleMania, and then you do Roman Cody again. Maybe that's the plan. I don't know. Maybe that's why they put the Rock thing on ice. That's why that doesn't make sense to go back to at any point. Who knows? That's kind of what I'm hoping for now. And again, I'm glad Matty's not here to put.
You book that. Sign me up. I'm here for it. I'm here because I feel like 2008 Cody is the peak of Cody, even more than what he's hotter now. But as far as a character, an entertaining character, every time out, 2018 Cody trying to take over the Bullet Club, being the number one guy in Ring of Honor, being the top heel in New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's peak Cody to me, and I want to see that as he's so hot in WWE.
And he can't put the kibosh on it. That's the other thing, is he doesn't have that power. That was the whole problem with the AEW run. It was like we were robbed of this great Cody kind of holds the company hostage and has outright lied to the fans about never getting the title. And we just never got that. And it is going to be one of the permanent what ifs of that company as well. But I mean, just to reiterate the points about Kevin Owens, even Kevin Owens at the very beginning, when I was showing people walking into the arena and he's trying to kind of fake out the cameraman, I thought that stuff was absolutely great. And you introduced Shawn Michaels. Okay, he already had the hometown pop there at the beginning. He didn't need it at the end. You had that moment with him. If he didn't want to take the back bump, you could have had Cody rescues him. Owens goes out of the ring, still looking kind of strong as well. Even that, I would have been kind of fine with if he didn't want to take a power bomb through the table or anything else. I mean, he wasn't going to take the cradle pile driver. I was just like, and also just the logic of we're hanging up the belts. But this isn't where it's taken, so you're going to hang it up.
Weird.
Take it down.
You can bring him down again anyway.
Just hand over the titles, and you go, well, all right. You could have done that on Monday or Friday. There was 2 other days you could have got round to that. It would have been the Friday, obviously, but yeah. It was just a bad segment, and it did serve the purpose of just annoying.
Yeah,
it was just kind of there for Cody to bring his star power to this show more than anything. And I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you because even back in like 2001, 2002, I always thought Hangman Adam Page title run should have ended by Cody turning heel and beating him for the title, because that would have made so much sense in the Elite storyline. The Elite storyline, they have pretty much said, the cap off of that was Hangman winning the world title. But it could have gotten even better if you would have had Cody be the one to betray him, because Cody was the number one supporter of Hangman. He's the one that had Hangman turn with him when he turned heel in 2018. So it would have made perfect sense for him to turn heel, beat him at Double or Nothing. Then you have MJF beat a heel Cody, because MJF was already getting cheers at that time. So you could have done it naturally where MJF's a babyface, beats Cody for the world title, and then you could have ran back MJF and Punk. You could have avoided all this mess.
Cody would still be working there. Punk would still be working there. Sliding Doors. That's another Patreon show we want to do at some point. But we were on the train of Cody's just slowly turning heel there. Just let it play out, folks. We're gonna see what happens, and then we saw what happened, and he went back to WWE. Maybe that'll happen now. Bring Brandy in. That'll turn him fucking heel. Even I'll turn on him then.
Slow down there, Cowboy.
We didn't mention it, by the way, in the 5-1. I had that. Somebody pointed that out to me today. Out of sight, out of mind. We must have just forgotten.
Told you it was open mic night, bitch.
Imagine that on the Raw after Mania. That'd be something. But hey, maybe she'll turn up because they need the fucking numbers for the Rumble that is coming up. We're going to talk some expectations on that. Maybe she'll finally, after that reality show of her training to be a wrestler on her own merits. How'd that go? Did it? Maybe she'll turn up and she'll be in there. But some of you might, we've breaking news as we're on air. Eddie pointing out in the chat, Fightful reporting that worst kept secret that Jordan Grace has officially signed with WWE. I imagine most of our conversation about the Rumble is going to center around the men's Rumble, because most of WWE's conversation is centered around the men's Rumble, and the women's Rumble is just another match on the cards. But yeah, as we expected, JP, Jordan coming in.
Yeah, not a surprise at all. I think the only surprise is, does she go into NXT, because it would tie in with the TNA/NXT relationship, or does she go straight to main roster, where really her talent kind of deserves to be, and she should be, and adds depth. And you've got one of these two secondary titles that she can go for pretty quickly, because they're the kind of titles that you can hot potato and get away with. And I think I'd be kind of like fine, absolutely fine with that as well. Her signing, it was on the cards the moment she appeared in the first Royal Rumble, and she proved that she belonged at that level. And we've seen her, like, her development as a performer in TNA, like, is one of the, it's one of the big reasons, it's one of TNA's USP. We take someone who really people aren't necessarily either aware of, or they've got low expectations for, and they develop, and she's become a really great big match wrestler. That is the thing that she can do, and she's going to be there. I mean, I should do the mention this as well for the Royal Rumble. They're already looking like it's going to hit 65,000. I mean, WrestleTix have reported that it's 60,000 tickets have been distributed. 62,000 is what the setup is. It's going to be 65 easy. I can't see even. It's whether or not do they want to go like kind of almost full bore in it. But we're not going to see any tarpaulin bits of the stadium there as well. And it tells you about how powerful it is. I just wish in the era of 2-day pay-per-views, this had been the first one, and we'd had Saturday night, either the men's or the women's, and then the Sunday, the other one. And there would have been enough matches they could have put onto this show as well, just to kind of like keep it going. Because
could have put all the matches from Saturday night's main event on one night of Royal Rumble. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, because I don't
be careful what you wish for, because next year it's Saudi, innit? I do not want a 2-day Rumble in Saudi. Just do one.
And I think this is the overall kind of like thing about this is would it draw those kind of numbers? Do you think combined it would have done 100K? I think it would have done easy 50 for both nights. I don't think that's a tricky thing into the mix. But yeah, that's what it sold so far. We've got some of the betting odds. I'll go through the men's ones first of all. I'm trying to see if he has the women's ones.
See if I can get the women's for you. I don't think the women's are out.
I don't think they do really have these on here, but we got for the men's
barely
ones.
had anyone announced until Friday.
Well, that's it. And for me, it's
Jordan Grace 2-1. Sorted.
Nice.
Okay. So we got John Cena 6-5 on using UK kind of betting odds for these. So he is the odds-on favourite, less than evens. So for this, CM Punk at 13-8, Roman Reigns at 3-1, Seth Rollins at 4-1. Then there's a bit of a leap. The Rock at 11-1, Drew McIntyre at 14-1, Goldberg at 16-1 in there as well, and then everyone else 16-1 bar. So there isn't anybody else they feel like left field could win it. There's no main event Jey Uso who is up there in the betting, and I think. I mean, as long as maybe they get to the point where pretty much that top four are almost your last four in there. That's the key thing. Get to that point. Use the rest of the time to build and develop your Bron Breakker as the guy who's going to get people out. I'm trying to think who would be the Iron Man.
Jacob Fatu is going to have.
Yeah, Jacob.
He's going to have one of those Kane ones, isn't he? Where he eliminates 50 people. Do the whole Vader thing. Takes out the entire place, and then has to be like carted out there. Like take out one of the big baby faces, like Vader did with Shawn. Do all of that.
When was the last time we got a good clears the ring and waits for the next participant to come out, and then have him do that, and it's Bron Breakker.
Yeah.
They would go, the roof would come off Lucas Oil if Bron Breakker comes out and Jacob Fatu is in the ring alone.
And that needs to be the first half of the show, because this is the other thing that we forget about this with the Triple H Royal Rumble. He hasn't really booked one well at all.
Like, that hasn't been a good one.
I thought the 2023 one was two good ones, but I will say that I can understand if people are like, he hasn't really done that well, because last year was a big disappointment.
Yeah,
I thought the women's one was very well booked and laid out, and it highlighted, Jade Cargill's debut, highlighted Tiffany Stratton, Bailey getting the win at the end. All of that makes sense. Naomi coming back and stuff like that. Jordan Grace as well had all those highlight moments, but the men's had so much hype going into it, and it was such a dud. Oh my God. People were in silence as Cody Rhodes and CM Punk were fighting at the end of the Rumble last year. Yeah. That is outrageous. So I'm hoping, because the hype is even more for this year's Men's Royal Rumble, I'm very much hoping he can stick the landing, because that's becoming an issue for Triple H.
That's it for Punk as well. Let's hope he doesn't tear a muscle or something while he's out there.
Also
Let's stick the landing this year, Phil. Jesus.
Well,
I think he's going to win. I think he wins. I think Punk gets the win.
Do you think? Yeah, that's interesting. Because I was going to say my take on it was, I feel like it's a Cena win. But I think they've done a good job of making it feel like it's still open by virtue of doing the obvious thing and putting the big stars in there. The fact that, I'll say something nice about him because Matthew's not here, Roman Reigns is in there. Like the start, just the idea of Roman Reigns caring enough to want to be in a Royal Rumble, like both in kayfabe and non-kayfabe terms, does bring the prestige of the matchup immediately. The fact that he's going to be even in there, the fact that Punk's in there again brings it up. Rollins and Drew, they're your realistic. Well, they're the guys who are there every week. They could potentially be in your final four as those types of guys. Like I feel like the result is obvious. I feel like it's just a straightforward Cena win, but I think having those names in there gives enough doubt.
I've been hearing more and more people say that, and I'm like, that's not happening. That would be the wrong choice by Triple H. I'm not saying that Triple H won't book that to happen, because I don't know what Triple H is going to book, but I think that would be the wrong choice, because how Cena laid it out. He said he hasn't won a match in 4 years, so he needs to go into the Royal Rumble. It would be way too easy and way unlike John Cena for him to go in, win the Royal Rumble to go to WrestleMania. It would make more sense if he comes close and then loses, especially considering they're booking the entire Elimination Chamber around the guy. You're telling me he's not going to be in Elimination Chamber, and that's how he wins? It makes sense with the marketing that's where he's going to earn his WrestleMania spot. It's Elimination Chamber, not the Royal Rumble. I think the Royal Rumble, it's either Roman or Punk, because that's the match we're really setting up through this Royal Rumble. And I think that they can play it in a way that helps a lot other different people. I think it comes down to Cena, Rollins, Roman, and Punk. Cena gets eliminated. You get the whole big moment. Oh man, his WrestleMania dreams is not coming true. What is Cena gonna do to go to How is he gonna go to WrestleMania and go for number 17? Then you have
then you do that.
You have Roman eliminate Seth, and then Seth becomes Sid Vicious. Roman becomes Hulk Hogan, and he holds on to his hand, allowing CM Punk to eliminate Roman Reigns. So then Seth Rollins is the reason why CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble. Then you can go around, and that helps out the whole storyline that's going on with Drew McIntyre's being like, "Hey Seth, you didn't help us. You didn't help against Roman." He's like, "I made sure Roman didn't win the Royal Rumble," and then Drew can come back and say, "Well, you helped CM Punk win the Royal Rumble. That's not any better. We're trying to keep both of those guys from the top." So it helps out all the different characters in different ways. I feel like Punk is the way to go.
I would say the complication is probably Gunther. Weirdly, in all of this, I think
Gunther's leaving that chamber. I think he's losing that chamber. I think he's losing that side of that chamber.
Because I think, it's because I would also say that I could see them going for a 92 finish in the nostalgia theme that they like going through in there as well. I just figured it was going to be Punk eliminates Roman distracts Punk, and then Cena eliminates him. And then you can kind of go towards Phil turning evil, basically, because not only has Roman screwed him out, but John Cena, the long-term kind of nemesis as well, that you can kind of throw into the mix.
I wonder if they won't want the belt complication with Roman and Punk, so that maybe puts me off your idea a bit, Sid. But I think where you've talked me into the building is that, you go that route with Cena. Who's Gunther rumoured to work with? If he had the world title at Mania, who would it be? Because that might be a good bet, JP. Lump on Drew or something?
The only rumor that I saw was Seth Rollins and Gunther.
Yeah,
I saw Seth Rollins and Gunther. I saw the report about Logan Paul as well. But I honestly,
he's 20-1. Get your money, folks.
I really don't think the way they booked Gunther that they plan on having him in one of the world title matches. They have really shit the bed on Gunther's booking ever since he lost to Cody. That was the.
You don't want him to be a cowardly heel who sells? Surely that's
no,
what we all want, Gunther.
No, that did not work. I do not want to see him get punked out by Damian Priest. I don't want to see him spend months in the Judgment Day vortex. I don't want to see him going 50-50 with Yeet Man, Jey Uso. I don't want to see any of this. What are we doing? he was the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. There wasn't a cowardly heel not once during that reign. How did he win the world title? And mind you, who has he versed for the world title? Randy Orton, who he faced at King of the Ring before his title reign started. He faced Sami Zayn, who he faced at WrestleMania before his title reign started. He's faced Damian Priest, who he beat for the world title at SummerSlam. He's faced Finn Balor, who he beat in June of last year. And he's faced Jey Uso, who he faced twice last year. Do we want to give him a fresh matchup? Does Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, the top stars of Monday Night Raw, care about this goddamn world title?
Not fucking at all, mate.
6 months! 6 months!
Oh, you speak on my language. Yeah, I think they've course corrected a little bit with him from like the overly cowardly heel he was playing towards the end of last year, and I'm hoping that carries on and like Mania is him just beating the shit out of a Logan Paul or somebody like that. But yeah, you make a case. Yeah. What are the odds saying for the women, JP? I think we've got a little bit of numbers there.
I do. It's all on Sky Bet as well, which obviously for the UK is quite handy. And they normally have all various kind of machinations of who do you think the Iron Man's going to be, who's going to eliminate most of the people. Those things always sort of come into the mix as well. Someone that they've got on here is 6-1 on Sky Bet, but not on Boyle Sports, which is the original odds I read out. Randy Orton at 6-1. Which obviously then, I know, from a storyline perspective.
Do him and Gunther again, so we can tower over him again.
just so he could have that. Randy Orton, who's eaten the previous incarnations of Randy Orton to get to this point. But in terms of the women's rumble, if I can just get it up on here as well. Well, naturally enough, and they got a boost on this at the minute, but Charlotte Flair is 7-4 on, or 13-8 on if you're going to go with the slight boost on that. Io Sky,
actress currently playing Charlotte Flair. Yeah,
exactly.
Like the Ultimate Warrior.
That ain't her. Who is that?
Yeah.
It's like when we were kids, in it. Like, no, that's not the Ultimate Warrior. That's Texas Tornado. He's just got face paint on, don't you know? That was the inside scoop in my school. I feel like it's happening again.
Fake Canes all over again. Io Sky at 5-2, Becky Lynch at 10-3, Bianca Belair at 4-1 alongside Jade Cargill, which again, rumours this week that they want to go to a match they've not done, and they've kept them away deliberately for this, of Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. Alexa Bliss 9-1, Jordan Grace 10-1, Nia Jax 12-1, Liv Morgan, Lyra Valkyria, Raquel Rodriguez 14-1, Rhea Ripley 16-1, but she won't be in there. So it's like, I don't know why. Why would she be?
They throw some random ones in, don't they? But it'd be like someone who's dead or who hasn't. Hulk Hogan, you can probably bet on him. You know what I mean? It's like there's always options like that in there. People who want to waste the fucking money.
There is like various other people that they've got that they include. There's even odds for Meiko Satomura at 80-1, which wouldn't be that surprising given the lack of effort they put towards it.
Yeah, but I don't have a guess because I care as much as they do. I just don't like they haven't created any kind of drama or intrigue or interest outside of who might turn up, like a Jordan or maybe like someone else from TNA, like a Masha Slamovich or something like that. I'd be into that. What'll end up happening is there'll be no fucking stakes to it, but somehow it'll be better than the men's rumble. It'll still be a better match. Like we've had that happen in previous years, haven't we? I could see that happening. But as far as actual stakes and interest, it's got it open, hasn't it? Of course it has. Like it can't be anywhere else on the card.
This feels like a more unpredictable edition of the Women's Royal Rumble, because I think most people last year had Bayley winning. Most people 2 years ago had Rhea Ripley winning. There was the whole rumor that Ronda Rousey was coming back before the 2022 one. And Bianca Belair seemed like she had all the momentum going into 2021. So it's been a good 5 years since we had this predictable of a Royal Rumble. And 5 years ago, Charlotte Flair won. So Charlotte Flair wins on Saturday.
Charlotte wins lol. Cena wins lol.
Charlotte wins lol. That's what it seems like they're going to. Because I think it would be kind of a rush job if Bianca won I do think that they should go with Bianca and Rhea, because I feel like Rhea has 3 main options for WrestleMania this year. It would be a rematch with Becky. It would be the dark horse of Io Sky, because I know a lot of fans have been rooting for Io because they did that little tease with her and Rhea a couple of weeks back. And then there's Bianca Belair, and that's the one they've been like break glass in case of emergency. The only nitpick that I have there is that I really thought that they were waiting to do that matchup when it could main event one of the nights of WrestleMania. And I don't think it's going to do that this year, because Cody needs a main event and Roman and Punk are facing each other. Those are the guys that are getting the main events on the 2 nights.
And therein lies the problem, isn't it? It's like, what are the matches they can do that can feel kind of big enough for that? And Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley, that's the kind of thing you can do. Do it on SummerSlam. You can get to that story. I'm in agreement with you. The idea of Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, and you look at the odds and you think that seems like a decent enough bet. But the truth of the matter is that like that's something that needs a year's build. It needs to be, these are the 2 next generational stars who are going to be like, this is the next Charlotte and Becky, basically. They're going to put into the mix with you, like you're building up that next layer, and it would be too much of a rush job to kind of get to it. Now they'll get away with it, because that's the thing with WWE. They get away with this stuff at the moment because, again, they've got that element of goodwill from the crowd. And they've already sold the tickets. So they can kind of get away with this stuff on there. I just think with Jordan Grace, for example, she's kind of a no-brainer to come in either 1 or 2 and clear people out and be like, or very early doors, do the clear the ring spot, have a look kind of dominant, have a go long as well.
I would have her be the most eliminations.
Yeah, absolutely. Because who else would it be? She should be the one who is basically slamming Nia Jax over the top rope, like just that spectacular Cesaro Big Show.
The Jade spot. Yep.
Yep. That's what you do there as well. But I mean, it's like you say, it'll end up being better than the men's. This is the weird thing. We won't look forward to it, but it'll be better than the men's.
Well, we'll be doing the full preview on Weekend Show on Thursday. I'll have Matty on for that one, so he'll tell me why I'm wrong about everything we just said about current WWE. Look forward to that. But I was going to say, JP, we did have on the docket nothing to talk about from SmackDown. It was another 3 hours of nothing. You can argue that with me on Thursday if he wants. When Matthew McConaughey is your highlight of your TV show, and there might be a problem. SmackDown is dead in the water right now. Hope you enjoyed his little cameo, JP, in the crowd with Kevin Owens. Apparently got in the ring, I think, after the show as well. Good for him, I suppose. Yeah. But any thoughts on that? Or I suppose the only other note we have for WWE before we get into a couple of last news stories to run through is that the viewership on Netflix seems to be back to reality. We don't have any updated numbers yet, but we're certainly. It depends on how you want to spin the headline, doesn't it? That either down 2.2 million people, or it's just kind of 37% down, or it's kind of just landing where we would have expected worldwide. And as more expected, JP, we're not getting the ins and outs of the numbers. We're not getting the quarter hours, and I don't expect them to come anytime soon.
And I think it's kind of getting the numbers that really these early shows kind of deserve, if we're going to be honest, because I felt kind of underwhelmed by it. But then I'm probably one of the resident people where I struggle to watch an episode of Raw. And because it's on Netflix and the algorithm has it appearing on there next to My Lover / My Killer, which seems to appear now, and all various true crime stuff that we have there in between. Things like Missing You SP3, which feels like, it's a couples program. It's the kind of thing you want to watch if you're just looking to do an 8-part drama that's nice and easy. So it going down to 3.7 million. I mean, they'll sell it as it's up 2.4 million above what it normally would get, or 2.2 million and around that range. It's if this is the norm and Netflix happy with it, and they've made noises about they're happy with it, but they're also paying a shit ton of money for it. So it does make you kind of wonder when you compare it to the other stuff that's on there, like your American Primeval and like Missing You and stuff like that. That stuff has done crazy numbers. That's like doing like 15 million a week. Now that's big budget prestige drama that's going to appeal to lots of it. And I think Raw is, and I know Variety had an article about it, but it was behind the paywall, so I didn't see all of it. And it's just the idea of Netflix really entering into the live TV game as well. And I actually think part of the reason why the crowds do well for these Netflix shows is people want to appear live on Netflix. I think there's a novelty to that aspect as much as anything. I was here, I was at this show, it was live on Netflix, and I think that's part of the appeal. They've sorted out any of the kind of technical problems that they have in there. So if this is where they end up, normally they'll probably think, yeah, this is kind of all right. It's a game of niches, and they've got that kind of niche audience. But if it starts to get below 3 million and stuff, I think
it doesn't land in those top 10s. That's when it's going to be an issue, isn't it? As long as you can sell it that it's in the top 10, that's all. It's going to be as good or bad as they fucking tell us, and that's at least one metric where we can follow. You know,
we'll get to the eyeballs aspect.
At least they got the top 10, like, because you don't have that with Max. Max don't release their numbers, so at least we got some type of numbers to kind of follow through on it. But I agree with JP, like, it hasn't, like, I really when I came on here for the Christmas special, I really just took in what y'all were talking about, and y'all were so excited for Raw being on Netflix. And you know, I'm too much of I've been a wrestling fan for 30 years, so I'm a pessimist. So I'm just like, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be as good as y'all describing it. And then I watched that first episode, and I felt very vindicated. I felt I've never watched a wrestling show and been more vindicated. Like, I'm watching that, I'm like, oh, Vince came back. That's cool. But
it was a Raw reunion, wasn't it? It literally was. Oh, I hated that show.
I thought the second week was much better with Penta's debut and stuff like that. I thought last week's show had better pacing. It had better pacing than the first 2 weeks because they're getting used to the 2.5 hours, but there was no spark to it. So, like, there's been like one pretty decent episode, a horrible first episode, and an all right episode. So we're still waiting on a great Raw on Netflix.
And there's going to come a point where they need to do some great Raws. There is going to come that stage where it's like, actually, and that's going to be the real test of his booking. And that's also going to be the real test of what TKO think about him as well. Is if things start sliding, those guys have zero in the way of morals and loyalty. They don't give a shit. They'll get rid. Like, they will get rid in a fucking heartbeat. They change showrunners for stuff all the time. They'll look at it as being absolutely no different. Ratings aren't working, and there you go. There is some other sort of small WWE news stories, and one of the ones I have to mention for this, and I'm criminally disappointed about this. Omos heading back to WWE. You know, in the worst possible / most Noah way possible that on here. He was wrestling in Osaka on Saturday, and then him and Jack Morris won. They defeated Kaito Kiyomiya and Galeno Del Mal. And then afterwards, he took the mic. He said he's returning to WWE, and he gave his half of the tag championship belts to Daga, who's had a great Noah run. Don't get me wrong. He's done well in there as well. He said he's going to return, doesn't know when. And I'm kind of gutted. I won't lie. I don't know about you, Sid, on this, because I just loved the presentation of him here. It was brilliant. And we made the comment as well, even the guy who was filming on the streets of Tokyo, we just seemed to bump into him on the street, and you just heard him, like, just the general conversation. You're like, I can't help but like this guy. I would just put the GHC tile on him now and just go, you've got him for a short period of time. But this is criminally short, and I suspect it's to bring him back for the Rumble, where he'll just be a giant who's in there to be thrown out by everyone when they do the whole let's team up against the giant, and he falls on his feet and then he goes. So I'm kind of gutted about that. Like,
I was enjoying just seeing the highlights. I watched the first matchup where he won the tag team titles with Jack Morris, and just the reaction that he got, I was like, yeah, this is the right move. This was the right move for them to do. WWE made a brilliant choice because giants get over in Japan. Like, it don't matter if it's the best giant in the world, the worst giant in the world, but just seeing the size difference between them and everybody else gets that big reaction from those Japanese fans that I absolutely love. I love hearing that type of stuff. So yeah, I do agree with you. A little disappointed by that. I do like the fact that he did give it to Daga, who, yeah, you are right, he's having a really good pro wrestling Noah run. He's been moving very fast. It's like he lost 170 pounds of racist weight off of him, but he's doing very well in Noah. So I got to give it up to Daga for that.
Yeah, I think he's reacted to his divorce in the same way that Nicole Kidman did when she divorced Tom Cruise and she was seen cheering down the street. It feels like it's that kind of vibe. It's like just substitute Scientology for racism. And he's just gone, oh, thank God, I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Fair play. But it's the way of it. And it's just so like, in that case, just have Jack Morris take a pin and lose it, and then have Jack Morris team up with Darga. It's like,
I don't get the thinking it was clearly best for everyone. Did they just want him back for the Rumble? I don't know.
I think so. I mean, I can get the idea of like there is serious untapped potential with him. Not because I think he's absolutely outstanding, but he's so big and he can do. But compared to most of that kind of size of giant, Jesus, he is he's got genuine charisma around him as well. He should be an absolute like killer. And I don't know, maybe in a Vinceless world, they're bringing him back and going, actually, maybe they see some value in him. I suspect that may not end up being the case. Other couple of quick news notes. There's a whole load of WWE programming that's go to A&E. So whether or not it turns, because we don't get A&E here in the UK, whether or not that's the kind of thing that ends up going on to Netflix as well. But they've got WWE LFG, which sadly isn't the initials for what it should stand for. Instead, it's Legends and Future Greats, which is, again, if this was like, I'd love this to be sort of a bit more fly on the wall and a bit more gritty, but it's about documenting 16 prospects in WWE system and about how they want to get onto the NXT roster and an inside look at the training schedule for new signings. It's very strange because I look at almost the TNA deal as being like that's the replacement for the Performance Center. That's just where you get people in to have a look at them and then you ship them off to TNA. It is going to have appearances from Paul Levesque, Undertaker, Mickey James, Bubba Ray Dudley is mentioned as well as Shawn Michaels and Booker T. Elijah Holyfield, son of Evander Holyfield. He worked a match as part of the taping for it as well. So he's going to be a big focus for it, as he kind of really should do, really. It's a nice hook to kind of throw into the mix in there as well. Then they've got a fourth season of WWE Rivals, and then they've got a 30-minute program called WWE's Greatest Moments, which for a company that's made up entirely of moments, it fits right within their USP.
Yeah. So, they don't care about matches. We're not going to do matches. We're going to do moments.
So it's like a 3-hour block on A&E. So I'll be interested to see if you end up watching that, Sid.
Well, they went from the 2-hour block. I was into the A&E WWE partnership back in like 2022, 2023. Mostly when they were just doing one show. Yeah, when they were doing one show, they were doing biography, and we were covering it on True Hill E. And then last year, I think it was last year, that they started doing the Rivals and then something else biography. And I was just like, you know what?
But it was good in a slow week, wasn't it?
Yeah,
probably the same. Like, there's nothing else is going on.
Yeah,
let's talk about Bam Bam Bigelow for 25 minutes because he's on this. Let's talk about Razor Ramon. Let's do something. You know
what biography I watched? I watched the Roman Reigns one. Because we don't get like an in-depth conversation with Roman Reigns enough. Like I needed something like that to hook me. I wasn't going out of my way to watch that. Not going out of my way to watch this. I was, when it first was announced, Legends and Future Greats, I was like, this kind of sounds like a new generation Tough Enough. I might be down for this. And then you just read the description and you said Undertaker, Bubba Ray Dudley, Booker T. Yeah, I'm not watching. Not watching.
Yeah,
those people on it. I'm not watching. I'm not. I have my fill of Booker T from NXT. Yeah. I have my full of Bubba Ray Dudley when I scroll my timeline and I see something stupid he said from Busted Open, and I have my fill of the Undertaker when he decided to steal the spotlight from Rhea Ripley. But you have a whole bunch of WWE fans like, oh, Rhea really wanted that moment. Like Rhea Ripley isn't one of the biggest wrestling stars in the world. Y'all acting like she's an NIL recruit. Why did she really need an Undertaker moment? That's so weird.
For circle the ring and then just walk backward. Like, what even was it? Like, in non-kayfabe terms, like, explain to me what happened. He rode around on his bike for a little bit and then rode off again. Like, what even was it? Like, it's just...
he high-fived her and they did this, and that's great, but you kind of stole the spotlight. Like, okay, you don't want to say she
could have been worse, though.
From her. He shared the spotlight with her when it could have just been on her.
The next news story, JP, I feel like it's a dare. I don't know if you want to get to it.
I don't know what the context of this is, but Sami Zayn tweeting Chucky Erlar, which is Irish for "Our Day Will Come," and is very much the slogan of the IRA, is not something I had on my list of things happening. I'm like, okay. Like,
glad you were here to pronounce that, JP.
What's happening? I mean, if he started coming out to the ring wearing like a balaclava and stuff, I probably would laugh. Like, I'd probably get like a fucking big kick out of that in the meantime. But that seems absolutely insane. What is the maybe he just watched Kneecap, which I would recommend. I really enjoyed. I haven't seen it yet. Which is full of that type of stuff. It's very Irish language train spotting. Is really how it kind of like the feel and the vibe to it. But I was like astounded by that, and I was astounded like all of that kind of that he would come out of this. I need to know the context of it as well. What I do love is
deleted it now.
The chat has said my new favourite wrestler.
Your dad would love him though, wouldn't he, JP? Hey, your dad, you'd bang into him.
Is he going to turn up at a Wolf Tones concert as well? Is he going to start like singing a nation once again? Come out, ye black and tans! Like, I mean, if he starts going down a whole very anti-British vibe on it, I say this to someone with an Irish passport, coming from an Irish family. I'm kind of fair fucking game for this. That could potentially offend a number of our listeners there as well. But fuck it. I'm gonna laugh at this, but at the moment, for the time being.
Might make the final edit, that might not. Or I might just call the show Sammy Fain, as Mikey said in the chat there. We'll see. Have all his interviews voiced over with a mask on. There's money to be made. What just weird story. And he's, like I say, he's tweet deleted. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. But on that note, we should move on to matters AEW. And thought I'd start. I know you're excited to talk some collision, Sid, as well. But within a pretty big period for AEW coming up, or a pretty big year for AEW coming up. A lot of big shows coming up, so I thought we'd do a bit of a roundup on the big shows that are coming up. Usually at this time of year, as an honorary Brit, you'll know the clickbait thumbnails on YouTube are all about all-in ticket sales. So we've always got to throw a nod to that in, even if it's in Texas this time and it doesn't count quite as well. But they've got 18,000 as the current setup, with 7,067 tickets available. They've distributed just over 11,000 at a time of recording. That comes at a time where I almost don't want to put the news sites on screen, but certain news sites are very excited about the fact that Grand Slam Australia apparently has a 2-for-1 sale on for tickets at the moment, as the good news keeps on coming with the Australia show. Obviously originally supposed to be a 52,000 seater, now moved down to a 13,500 seater. I'm not sure why, but like WrestleTix haven't really been covering the ongoing ticket sales for that one, but like I say, it's believed, I think at this point, to be around the 10,000 number, with 13,500 what it's set up for. So no, the 2-for-1 headline makes it sound worse than it is, but obviously it's a far cry from being a gigantic stadium event. But on that note, obviously we've got Forbidden Door coming up on our shows. Still no official announcements as far as a place goes, but Zack Sabre Jr. putting his voice out there, talking about wanting the match with Ospreay for that. We can talk a little bit about that as well, and what we think the plans are for that. All in general, Double or Nothing even, which apparently isn't in Vegas. But I suppose we'll start. Texas. You going to Texas? You going to bother, or will you be over there here at this point?
I'm probably going to be in the UK in a few weeks. I don't know how long I'm going to be out there, but I am trying to work out logistics as far as getting to Texas, because I mean, I bought a ticket for Madison Square Garden in 2019 for the G1 Supercard, because I believe that was going to be the date we get Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega in the United States. So the fact that it's 6 years later, I got to try my best to be there again for when it's really going to happen, because it did not happen in 2019. AEW and Tony Khan came aboard and stopped that from happening. So if it's going to happen in Texas, I need to be there. I just want, AEW to make it as big as possible, because Tony Khan, don't try to overthink things. There's not going to be a match bigger than Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. It does not matter how long you want to do this dumbass Death Rider story, and you think it's going to culminate at that event. That better not mean event. It should be Omega and Kenny.
We can't wait for that. We cannot wait for Darby to finish Mount Everest. to come and do
fear.
Texas. Like that, I'd go another route. Kenny would be my champion already by then, and I'd do Kenny Ospreay or something. Or I guess you could do Kenny Okada.
I've already done the booking for them. I've already done the booking for them. They're going to do, obviously they're doing Mox and Cope at Revolution. Just have Cope win, but don't let him win and walk out the building with it. Christian cashes in on Cope. He becomes champion. Then you run a triple threat at Dynasty of Christian, Cope, and Moxley. And then Christian drops the title to Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. And you do title versus title at All In. Kenny versus Okada.
How about just 1 week John Moxley doesn't turn up to work and we just give the belt to Kenny Omega, Eric Bischoff style, and we just pretend none of this has happened? I mean, it'll save us the summer.
I mean, I would love that, but I'm trying to be realistic here. Because I will say, talking about Collision, it was the best episode of AEW television this whole year. And no, it's not a coincidence that Jeff Jarrett, the Death Riders, and Chris Jericho wasn't on it. It was the best episode.
I'll give you the last.
But that's just a coincidence.
we protect Jeff around these parts, but has been, going close to the sun the last couple of weeks of Dynamite.
No. I am not allowing no 50-year-old man from the South calling a 26-year-old Canadian a call girl. What is this? What 2025? This is gonna call her a floozy next? A floozy. Oh, she's a flu. You're getting married to a floozy. JERRD. Your call girl, your mother's. And
just bring Tennessee Lee back.
Mind you, he called MJF's mother a call girl. MJF's mother is a sweet woman. Saying that someone that did door-to-door fundraising in Long Island, there ain't a lot of sweet women who are Jewish that live in Long Island, and that woman is. So how dare he call her a call girl?
We can't defend Jeff, can we? He better not be winning that Claudio match on Dynamite this week, JP. Number one contendership, Jeff.
It'll be a banana peel. But I think that's happening.
I was fine with the MJF program, though, in principle. Like, I felt like Jeff's strengths lent into MJF's strengths, which is might work, which is, ballyhoo and distractions and nonsense, and I felt like there was a place for it. Week one, it was like, okay, I don't want to see this anymore. I'm done here.
I was actually into the first promo. The first promo, the setup promo. I was this is a good follow-up for MJF. MJF feels like he's moving away from Adam Cole in the Undisputed Kingdom because it wasn't gonna get any worse than that. And then that first promo, it was actually good. I was like, oh, this is a nice little program they can do until Grand Slam, and he beats Jeff Jarrett at Grand Slam, and he moves on. Then they did that second promo. I was like, oh, no, take this off my TV. Take this off my TV. That promo was so bad that Tony Khan, who's never seen that episode of Friends where Ross is moving his furniture, he actually pivot away from something in AEW. He pivoted. If you watched Dynamite last Wednesday, you were like, oh wow, he's pivoting away from MJF and Double J. Why can you do that, but you can't pivot with Moxley? What the hell is going on?
He's stubborn, isn't he? Message board post that he wants to be right. He wants to win the argument, despite all logical sense. I mean, where do you see the directions? Where do you see the directions going, JP? Like, I think we're tied in for Grand Slam, which is a bigger looking show than I think, given the issues with the ticketing, given the fact that it's going to be on a 24-hour delay at a daft time, and no one's going to watch it as it is on as a basically a special episode of Collision. We talk Battle of the Art. We don't know when.
We still don't know when it's going to air because they stop announcing it for 8 p.m. because that's when NBA All-Star Weekend is on.
Yeah,
so they're
should
not
just be
running
after
at 8
some point, maybe like some point in the night. But they've still put big matches on it. I still feel like Ospreay and Omega, like as a tag team, like as the Omega Powers, as you coined that name, said we were fuming at you on the weekend show because we wanted to call our show that, and I went on YouTube and showed you'd already stolen the name, so we had to move on to other such ideas. But the Omega Powers is the winner. Like that's a big time main event. I feel like that sets up so many interesting possibilities of singles with those 4 different guys. With this not being such a big show, maybe that does set up something for dynasty, or it sets up something for wherever Double or Nothing ends up being, which doesn't seem like it's going to be Vegas coming up. Hopefully that's the direction, because that was the thing we said, didn't we, JP, about last week's Dynamite? If anything crystallized the difference in the two AEWs right now, it was the first half of Dynamite where Ospreay and Omega were playing Tango and Cash and we're all punching the air, ignoring the logic gaps of why is Kenny Omega all of a sudden friends with Ospreay, and just loving the fact that they're climbing tall shit and jumping off it. You're not getting that in WWE, are you? Like, you could say that's sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Fuck, Roman Reigns isn't doing a moonsault off a bit of scaffolding. That can only happen in AEW, and that's why it was so fucking awesome. Hate Syndicate, they were fucking awesome on Dynamite, and then the second hour is dedicated to Moxley and the rest of his depressing gang. And like, yeah, but the AEW I want to see seems to be the AEW that they're pushing towards for this Grand Slam show, and I hope that's the bigger creative direction, and the Moxley stuff continues to get like pushed to the side a bit.
You didn't mention the main event, which is Harley Cameron versus Mercedes Moné. Harley Cameron
for the Aussies,
is maximizing her minutes on it. That song, I almost had a tear in my eye. I'm legit. I almost had a tear in my eye. Listening to that, I was like, this might be the best improv song I've ever seen on a wrestling television show ever.
She has completely proven her value to the
She's
company.
so talented, isn't she? It's wild.
Mid-card, like comedy character. And it even brings you back to when she started rapping with, Ashley Bowen and stuff like that. And that was... And Jesus, it was like, God, I'm laughing at this one as well. And she's a natural in front of the camera, and it works. And I think with that, like, at least with the Grand Slam show, you've got like what is going to be your work rate matches that's really going to hopefully impress. Because by God, as you guys were talking about it in terms of the Grand Slam ticket sales, it's depressing seeing them go into another new market, new country, and kind of fuck it. Like when it comes to like getting that repeat business,
you've stepped on so many rakes with that show. So many rakes.
They have, and it's self-inflicted because for me, it should just be a big Max special. That's what they should be pushing this as.
Yes, it should have been promoted as that from the beginning.
Yeah, that's all it needed to be. And then we're going to show this later on after the NBA All-Star game. But if you want to watch it live and you want to see unlimited repeats throughout the day, you can go on to there. In terms of the overall direction, I'm kind of with you guys. There needs to be a course correct, and it has to happen quickly. We need to see stuff happening at Revolution. Has to be an acknowledgement that this Death Rider stuff has been awful, and it's no coincidence for me. I think there's been so many weeks of TV and looking at the ratings that people just aren't interested in it, and that there's been a bit more interest since the focus has gone part of the show onto Kenny and Ospreay, and they need to be two of the big component parts for how this is going to work. So if you're where do I think they're going to go? I think the stubbornness is going to come through, and he's going to go, it's Kenny Okada for the Continental Championship, or whatever the name of the fucking belt is these days. There's so many of them, and it's going to be we're waiting around for Darby Allin, and that's not going to work. That just doesn't appeal. It doesn't work for me at all. You are keeping the
world title scene hostage for a guy that has a 60% chance of living. Like literally, he's not even climbing the mountain.
Guaranteed to come back, yeah.
Not even climbing the mountain. He has a 60% chance of living if he does this. Like, that's who you're putting the whole state of the company on a guy who's climbing. No, we need to course correct. Like, we can get to Darby. I was all for Darby. When the story started, I was into it. And I was all for Darby being the one to win. But when this whole story started, I was like, also, Darby's going to win at Revolution because that's 1 year after Sting retired. You can have Sting come back, help him fight off the Death Riders, and then he wins the match at Revolution. Big heroes welcome. It's in Los Angeles, not that far from Washington. He could get his family out there. So would have been perfect. That would have been perfectly fine, and I would be dealing with a lot of this BS that we've had to deal. And I really feel like this program has really gotten to the bad, really bad, because I know there were some people that weren't into it from the beginning, but this got really bad after Full Gear. Going into Full Gear, we were fine. It was looking all right. After Full Gear, it's been awful. It doesn't get a reaction. It loses viewers. Just move on.
And
they literally, he's tying up the Rock and Roll Express again. Like on like Dynamite last week. How did we not learn our lesson from like when that bombed on Collision? How are we repeating those bad ideas? Like, and Moxley's trying to cut these promos now where it's almost like they feel self-aware. He feels aware of like the thing on Collision this week with in the garage with his wife stood there with him, with Renee stood there with him, and he's trying to make it make sense. And it's like, you can't. You just got to take the L, mate. It's not. I can't think of any wrestling fans I know of. I think Gareth last week was probably a bit more charitable than I would to the job it's done with Jay White and Hangman Page and some of the positives there. But I think even if you give those positives, like the negatives just override everything. Like, I was negative on it from the start, Sid, because for me it was just AEW was such WWE was the good news story promotion. WWE had all the goodwill, and AEW was a bit of a miserable place when they started this story. And I think the last thing AEW needed was a black and white, grey, miserable heel heat story. And there probably were, you're absolutely right, there were, JP laid them out a few times earlier on, there were better ways to tell the story that they didn't go in, and instead it's just endless heat. Like, you know that dread you feel when that Moxley music hits, like just the opening bar of it makes you it's not Steve Austin Glass Smashers business is about to pick up. It's like, oh, here we go, then we got 40 minutes here. And then you add Cope to it, who, like, literally when you said there about doing something with him and Christian, I get it from a booking point of view, and I was against type, wasn't up for Cope in AEW, and I mostly enjoyed his first run, but that was because of the people he was working with and the place he was on the card. You add that to the mix, like an Asian ex-WWE guy who's got his own boring ideas as your main event pay-per-view challenger for Moxley on top of it. It just adds to the misery for me. It's a perfect storm of stuff that I don't see anybody defending at this point, like even the most hardcore AEW fans.
And it's just not what that fan base wants. I look at this, and you've spoken about so many component parts. You could have a main event scene that is effectively built around just as individual singles wrestlers, Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay.
Sold.
You could have John Moxley as single in there as well. If you wanted to do Jay White, Hangman Page, Swerve.
Yeah. Swerve,
and any mixing them around, but as individuals. Yeah, like Jay White has a stable nominally, but just those kind of interactions, and they're jostling for position. That's the right word. To then who is then gonna challenge for the title, and their interactions. They're the things that if you're putting on the mid card of a pay-per-view, you go, but this is a match that kind of has stakes, because even though you're not doing rankings, you kind of are doing rankings at the same time, and it doesn't get convoluted and any kind of nonsense. We're going to change the company, but we're never going to tell you why or how we're going to change the company. We just are. And you go, yeah, you're kind of changing it for the worse. And then you would just have these guys that their goal is they want to be world champion. And they've all got different routes and different paths on how to get to the title. That is, it's the simplest way and it's the easiest way. And the course change, I think I completely agree with what you said earlier on, which is if what you're going for all in Texas is going to be Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, title for title, and then you get rid of the Continental Classic, and then you have that as just a tournament.
And you make the Continental Classic for the number one contender at Revolution. It's pretty simple. What they should have done from the beginning. They shouldn't have not made a title for a tournament. It should be to determine who's the number one contender to go on to face the world champion. And I hope that through the booking that I put together, and you said Tango and Cash, I compared my good friend Rick Ucchino said Ospreay and Omega on Dynamite were Batman and Superman when they realized their mother's names were Martha. That's how flippant it was with how they but everybody was into it.
That
People
was their
were talking
mood
about it
so
online,
good.
saying that it was the best opening segment in quite some time, and it
was so
these
good.
are the top guys. These are the top guys.
And WWE can't do this. Like, WWE won't do this. Like they told that story. Like, I was loving it when we were talking about the weekend show, because it kind of dawned on me. It was all told physically. Like, why did they become friends? Well, because they both realized they needed both of them to suplex someone wrestling. And then how did they solidify it? They both did really fucking cool moonsaults off high shit that, again, wouldn't happen in a million years on a WWE show because health and safety and all the reasons why it wouldn't. Like, and it was the perfect, most AEW ridiculous. I loved the first hour this week. I can't put a praise on it.
I don't understand how Tony Khan doesn't see that he has his version of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, but they're better wrestlers in Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay.
Or Hangman and Swerve. You could go that direction too. You could say them.
Yeah, you could. There's so many. There's like 4 or 5 guys that should be the world champion before Jon Moxley right now.
And even if you want to push, let's just say, a Takeshita into the mix, you've got a fan base that's willing to accept. And also, a lot of the guys who've mentioned there, they haven't, and I think this is a big problem with AEW. They don't have the taint of WWE of feeling like you've seen their best years already. And I think that's been always a big part of the problem. And it's definitely the case when it comes to Cope versus Moxley. You feel like I've seen these guys at their peak. They're not at their peak. They're never getting to that point. Whereas otherwise, you can choose, you can get 6 wrestlers who didn't peak in WWE, or in Swerve's case, never got any kind of a substantial chance. Jay White's not been there. Hangman Page hasn't been there. Kenny Omega's not been there. Neither has Takeshita, neither has Will Ospreay. And you just
think Lashley at this point, because it's not even just being an extra there; it's being an extra because he's interesting. He's interesting.
If you wanted to go this direction as well, if you then thinking, okay, we are going to be serious about a powerhouse Hobbs, and you put him in there as like, this is a proper homegrown guy for us, like we kind of discovered him, then you can throw him into the mix as well. But they have these options. I think the worst thing is that all of the stuff that we've suggested is immeasurably better than what they're doing at the minute, and it's just stubbornness. That's all it is. It's just stubbornness.
Some of it they are doing, to be fair to them. Some of it they are doing, and it's the better stuff on the show. And that is case in point, isn't it?
And they need to, like you said, those are the guys that they need to bring in behind. And I know people are down with him, but MJF is probably the number 2 draw in this company. He has to also be in that mix. And he has struggled to feel on the same level as he was 2 years ago because they've been trying to keep him out of that mix when they should be putting him back into it. It did not make any sense for him to go after the international title. Y'all made that work, and it was a fun rivalry with Will Ospreay, but he should have went after the world title since he's been back. And there's an alignment issue there if you don't have MJF in that main event scene. And it's a similar alignment issue that's in the women's division because Mercedes is obviously the top champion of the women's division, but she has the mid-card title, and Mariah May's reign has been objectively not good because they have not focused on her as the main champion.
Yeah. And I almost feel that should be your women's match is Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm for All In Texas. That for me feels like that's your title for title, and you're building 2 big title for title matches as your double main event. And I guarantee that will get much more appeal and much more traction than anything else they're doing.
Well, on that point, we should talk some Collision, as Toni Storm was a big part of it, and kind of comes at a time when we do have this new story that's broken tonight. Fightful Select saying it's been noted that Tony Khan is more in the weeds when it comes to AEW creative, and that big part of that was this week's Collision. There you go. Like JP's more in the weeds on Spotlight this week. All works, doesn't it? But obviously, I think you sound like you're the high man of the 3 of us this week on Collision, Sid. I did think there was some positives there. Like we talked a little bit about Hobbs before. Him and Big Bill, sign me up. Like sign me up. Them two having a brawl. Big Bill becoming a human being again. Sign me up to that. Like that's another one. Just fucking Men in Black here and just pretend he never knew Chris Jericho's an entire life and he's just back being Big Bill. Just have Ricky Starks come back for 1 week and go, hey mate, do you remember when we were a tag team? Have him wipe through him, get his whole memory back, put the fucking jeans back on, and let's go. Him and Hobbs, I'm up for it. They got me excited for that, and I think Timeless Tony and all of that stuff is probably the headline story a lot of people are talking about with Collision this week. But does that align with you, Sid?
Yeah, I thought everything had a point and was pointing towards something, and they were building up something with Grand Slam. Of course, the Timeless Tony Storm one is going to get all the attention, but I agree with you. The second best thing on the show was Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill, because everything, it made sense and it felt like a cartoon at the same time, because you got Hobbs, and they did what I wanted them to do, because when Hobbs says, I'm going to meet you in the parking lot on Dynamite, I'm like, it's Daly's place, so they're gonna do another parking lot brawl. They got to do the match and everything. But no, they did what I wanted. I was like, no, they should just do it as an angle, and they did that. You have him throw the brick at him, and you're like, where did he get the brick from? And they paid that off with the second brawl because he has the bricks in his bag, and he dumps out.
mate.
I love
all
that.
the bricks, and he has the handcuffs. He has the knee brace. I was like, yo, this dude is like a video game character. He had all these props in his book bag. That was great. Oh man, I love
when I saw him with the bag, I just thought he looks like a college student. I was calling him B-Tech Bill at this point rather than Big Bill, because that's what he looked like. He was just like, oh, here we go. He's got his back. He's doing his level 3 course in construction, which clearly that's where he's nicked the bricks from, and he's brought them on board. But I'd love that shit. Give me that shit all day, because that's two guys who pass, as Matty always talks and has always been noted, pass the airport test. And Big Bill has been, ever since TNA, in terms of his career rehabilitation and stuff, has been great. And he cuts good promos. It's like, this is someone who,
when he's not putting his stupid voice on. When he's doing it,
even when he does that, I feel like he's been the highlight of the Learning Tree gimmick, because his delivery, he's very funny. He's funny with that cartoonish voice that he gives. Like, you know, what the Learning Tree says is you gotta eat potatoes to get to grapes, or whatever the shit he's saying. I don't even know. But
if that was I laugh. If he was doing that week, say he came into AEW and he was doing that week 1 and we hadn't had TNA run and we weren't convinced he was going to be good again, it'd be a great little background role for him to bring some personality out and then start getting a serious run. The problem is that serious run was happening right in front of our eyes. Like the buzz around him when they did the UK shows last year, coming out of the Ricky Starks tag team, he is not a man that needed to stand behind Chris Jericho and go back to basics and bring some personality out.
But they have done a good job of protecting him in this gimmick. Because when the Learning Tree loses, it's never Big Bill who takes the loss. They protected him enough where
usually
now
JP's
when he's feuding with Powerhouse Hobbs, it feels like these are two monsters going at it, because they have done a pretty good job at protecting him and not taking him, having him take losses, and that's why the fans were into that. And I feel, like I said, I think that everything on the show kind of made sense, and we're building towards something. You had Joe coming back, you had the Hounds of Hell picking up a win, the setup for Buddy versus Kazuchika Okada, another big match for Grand Slam, probably that's going to be great as well.
Oh, of course.
And then they capped it off with Konosuke Takeshita and Shibata, which I thought was Shibata's best match in like over a year, probably since he was facing Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. Yeah, he just had to face the best workers in this company, and he has his great matches. So I mean that makes sense to me. And
just like when he wrestled Tanahashi at the Dome, you know, just makes you work the best wrestlers. You have the great, maybe not.
Just work the best wrestlers, you know.
It was just seeing Shibata used somewhat properly was just like, oh, thank God. That was the thing. There was not any doubt about in terms of where the result was going to go. But then I thought, Jesus, if New Japan, if they've got that deal with Takeshita, you could run this match back in Japan, you know, and you'd get a hell of a reaction for it, and it would completely work. They won't, because it's New Japan in 2025. But like that was the thing. My feelings about the show, not everything hit for me. There's times where it does it's almost like it wears its B show label with pride. Yeah. And I don't want it to be the B show. I don't want this to feel, at times watching Collision in the past has felt like I'm watching Explosion. That's what I'm watching here. Recaps of the better show on the Wednesday. These were the angles. By the way, none of these people are going to appear in any meaningful context. You're like, no, you've still got to wait till Wednesday for that. But there was enough. This was actually more substantial than I thought it was going to be.
To that point, JP, would you? Because I think a lot of the conversation on the Tony Storm angle has been, why do this on Collision? You know, whether that's a justified. Is that helpful? Like to your point of view there, to put something more substantial on there, something that matters, pay off to a long-term angle, whatever you think of the execution of it, because I'm looking forward to getting into that side of it, like putting something like they have, at least for the last few months, they've started to put little things like that on Collision. They've started to give you reason to be honest, we talk about it like it's the B show. It's not like the numbers are that much lower than Dynamite. It's not like it's we're talking a couple 100,000 at this point, you know, and I know that's a big percentage of the Dynamite number these days, but it's not a huge difference. And I guess you're only going to get people to watch it by putting this stuff on there. Is that the devil's advocate argument for putting something like that on the show? I've seen a lot of the other way.
Sorry, the promotion has gotten better for AEW, and not because of AEW, it's because Max is promoting it more. So we're seeing the ratings, if you notice, for Dynamite has been up.
Yeah,
and I take that down to Max's promotion of it more than anything. And even Collision has been, I would say, since like December when the Continental Classic starts, Collision doesn't really, it feels like the B show still, but it feels like a natural continuation of Dynamite in
more Dynamite, basically.
In more of the way that SmackDown was a continuation to Raw in the 2000s in WWE. It feels more like that the last 2 months. And I just thought that this show, there was stuff, that didn't hit at the highest level. Like, I would have liked to see more of Joe and Nick Wayne. And I think they've been doing a horrible job of getting Nick Wayne reps in AEW since he signed with the promotion.
What's he gained from being in a stable?
And for everything you just said, Benno, about Big Bill and Brian Keith, they in much better shape than Nick Wayne, Luchasaurus, and Kip Sabian. And I love Christian Cage, but he ain't looking out too well for his stablemates in the same way Jericho is. At least Jericho getting his stablemates camera time, and they feel like they have upward mobility.
Camera time, so
nobody in the patriarchy feel like they have upward mobility except for Christian. I would have liked more from that. I would have liked more from like Gates of Agony and Hounds of Hell, but the stuff that hit like the Tony Storm promo, the Big Bill and Powerhouse Hobbs, the main event, to enough where I was just like, I watched Collision and I watched Saturday Night's main event at the same time, and I was like, Collision lacked it. Collision lacked Saturday Night's main event to me.
It probably helped being in Daly's place as well, which I'm still amazed it didn't set up, but it did massively help. For that particular show. And then when looking at Hounds of Hell as well, you went, okay, we've introduced like a proper another tag team that I can kind of get behind, at least into the mix, that can be credible challengers for the Hurt Syndicate.
Yes, keep building them. That's the all-in match. That's the all-in match for the tag team titles. Build Hounds of Hell, throw FTR and all the established teams that Hurt Syndicate first, and then just keep building Hounds of Hell for Texas.
You've just got to be committed to that, though, because I think there's always a chance, when like the leader of a stable leaves, or a stable, you bit parts of the stable just carry on. It gets a bit Scott Steiner and Main Event Mafia, doesn't it, at times, where it's just like, it's the stable, but now they haven't got a leader, but they're still together for reasons. Like, they need to actually follow up on that and make Hounds of Hell mean something outside of Malachi Black. Not sure if I trust them to hit the landing on that, but what else are you going to do with them two? I think it's a good little role for the two of them if they can get some more TV time. But we have circled around it. We should talk the Tony Storm and Mariah May angle. What do you make of it, JP? On this, it's weird because it's been an angle, isn't it, where we've been hot and cold on it, I think, on our podcast, and that, like, I think it's one of them where it's one of those we can recognize when it's not for us, but it works. And I think that's mostly been this story. And then there's been times where it has outright been for me. Like, I was one of the high men on the Wembley match, for example. The initial turn with Tony and Mariah, and the big reveal for Mariah, I loved. And then there was the weeks of promos afterwards, which weren't great. And a couple of those random weeks where they gave Mariah in-ring promo time, and she didn't really stick the landing. And then similar to Mariah, I feel like there's been a mirror image. Tony Storm was like the forgotten champion. Now, as Sid said before, Mariah May's been the forgotten champion, until it's like, oh shit, we had this date written down around this time, we were going to do the big reveal angle, so we need to make this important again. And they did, and I think the execution of it was very good, and I think Tony Storm's performance in it was very good, when it, all puns intended, when it comes to doing the big reveal. Did it make sense, though, at the end of it, JP? First question. And also, if you got to have a babyface coming out of it, like, why would you ever get beaten down to then do the reveal? And then it's like, oh, so this loser, we now want her to beat up Mariah May for reasons, but why didn't she reveal it before she got beaten up? Did the sense get beaten into it? Is that what we're supposed to believe? It was a weird one, because 50% of it I really enjoyed, and I was glad they got somewhere with it. But the other half of me is just scratching my head going, we skipped the chapter.
In the moment, I enjoyed it because of Tony Storm and their dynamic.
She's pulled this off really well. The whole spud amnesia thing, she's done a really good job.
She has, and I've really enjoyed her going. This is the only time, having seen her on the UK Indies wrestle as this character, I've enjoyed this, because the thing that she is, the timeless Tony Storm run has helped her do, is her confidence doing comedy. Now, I know comedy, main event angles, all of the provisos still go around that. That's not necessarily the way to go. But her delivery's been so good, particularly for like the backstage stuff that you'd see where she's helping out and whatnot. And it's Tony time. Now, all of that stuff, I've actually found that really enjoyable. Even though it got the reaction of the crowd, the place really to do this would have been kind of during the match at Grand Slam, that she's beaten up so much to the point where she starts to become timeless Toni Storm. And you have that kind of, she goes in there as one character, she kind of leaves as another, and that would have been the route of how you get around it. She became timeless Toni Storm, and she gets her revenge, and then you can have a blow off, like kind of that trilogy match in there at some point where you do it at Revolution or whatnot with a stipulation, and you probably go violent with that one as well. So it was, I've written on my notes here, it was good if you don't question any of the story. The problem is with AEW is that as opposed to WWE, we're so hypercritical of the story when it comes to AEW. We don't want any plot holes or whatnot. Whereas WWE, we just skate past them, move on to the next moment, and then we just kind of, life goes on in there. But
even then, when WWE do big capital letters story, you're gonna get the Bloodline defenders online. We know one, like, who are gonna go, no. What you're missing is this week that happened. This week, Paul Heyman and CM Punk ran into each other, and that explains why we've gotten to here. You want to be able to, if you're gonna do lore, and they're trying to do lore here, you want to be able to do that, don't you? And thread that needle. I'm just not sure they did. Sorry, JP.
No, I don't think they did. I think we got to a point where it was just like, shit, we've got this show coming up. We need to get to this angle. And then there'll be the follow-up on Dynamite. And then you get the couple of weeks back of timeless Toni Storm. Whether or not it's going to help the ticket sales, I'm not necessarily convinced by it. But I don't know if that's necessarily the point. I think what you want to do for that, the fans who are going to be in Brisbane, is you just give them that Toni Storm winning the title back on home turf after seeing good showings from all of the other Australian wrestlers in there. It's easy crowd-pleasing shit. I just don't want them to think like TNA does and go, well, actually, what they're not expecting is for her to lose. Because let's face it, like you've said before, the Mariah May title run, it's basically, it's existed so we can get to this point where she gets the title back. And that's where we're going to have that. And then I think after this, or after the blow-off match of Revolution, that's when we get Mercedes Moné, and she's doing a belt collector gimmick, and she goes, well, there is a belt that I don't have, and then that's the world title. And I think that's, again, it's just simple, straightforward booking. She can go, well, I can see through the storyline and stuff like that, and that would be the direction that I'd want them to go in.
I would not mind that. Those are the two biggest stars, timeless Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, so that would work. As far as this angle, I enjoyed 90% of it. I do agree with you. The 10% that I don't agree with is the reason why she made the reveal here. Like, you got your ass kicked and then revealed that you've been playing her this whole time. You've been playing your role. But that's why I said I like 90% of it, because I like the execution. The execution of the promo exchange. Like, I like Mariah May being like, I'm not falling for this. I see through this. But when I look at you, I see nothing. I don't see you playing this game. I see nothing. These people don't care about you. They just play along with it. I don't care about you. I'm going to beat you in your home country at Grand Slam. And I love Tony's response, because Tony's response is literally a paraphrase of what Mariah May originally told her when she first came to AEW. I went back and watched the clip. And it's the same thing. She said, I'm your biggest fan. You're an inspiration. That's the same thing that she said. So I loved all of that. I love Mariah slapping the crap out of her. And if they would have just kept the angle at that, I think that it would have been a 10 out of 10. I mean, it wouldn't have been as memorable as the promo and the reveal, but I think it would have been nice build to Grand Slam, because I agree with JP. I was expecting her to keep playing this rookie role all the way through Grand Slam. I didn't expect her to turn into timeless during the matchup. I expected her to actually win as the rookie, get a surprise roll-up win. You don't have to have the headline the show. You can have it to open the show. She gets the win. She wins the title, and then Mariah May beats the crap out of her, bloodies her again, and then that's how she becomes timeless Toni Storm again in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, at Revolution. I thought that would have made more sense story-wise for everything that's broken down, because timeless Toni Storm won the world title originally in Los Angeles in 2023. So would have worked in it that way, but I can't deny that this segment, this promo that she did, it set the bar for the promo of the year, in my opinion. Because just her delivery of it. Did you think I'd forgotten? Did you think our dance was done?
And the natural reaction of the crowd to hearing that.
Yes, like, the crowd's
organic, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. Yeah. She was like, sometimes they say the hardest role you'll ever play is yourself. And a woman taking off her clothes, it wasn't the fact she was taking off her clothes. It's the fact that she had on the Timeless Toni Storm thing is what got the big reaction. Usually, it would just be because she's a fine woman taking off her clothes. That would have got a pop. But it's because of the character and the role she's been playing, and then just her finally looking, like cutting this whole promo, and then finally looking at Mariah when she says, you say you're the woman from hell? Well, you came from my womb, and I'm going to shove you back in it.
That was a brilliant line.
That was a great line.
And then to end it off,
and slap your tits off.
Tony Khan, you're an idiot. If you don't get t-shirts that say, my name is Timeless Toni Storm, and on the back it says, I'm going to rip your tits off. I'm sorry. That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt that sell out tomorrow. That was a fantastic promo. This woman has become one of the best. In my opinion, she's the best female promo in the business today. The stuff she did when she would get serious with those backstage vignettes, the 2-minute promos, she was excellent. This was the first time that she knocked it out the park live in the ring. So I got to get into it.
It's a vocal delivery as well. It's the change in accent and doing that in a heartbeat. Like that.
Show more personality than she has ever has in her career. Like I'll give that. It's not always been for me like the more comedic elements of it, but it's funny. Like this is one of those stories where when it hasn't been for me, we've often been wrong. Like when she first came back under the the old school Toni Storm outfit, we all bought it as a shoot. Like there were think pieces and there were YouTube clickbait, wasn't it out there? Like what did AEW doing, bringing her back on a Rampage and having her wrestle like Toni Storm again? Yep. Like people were slow to get onto the really quite stupid story that they're telling. So you got to give them credit.
They had to do that portrait of a rock star for people to understand the following week,
like
that she is not
she's doing
timeless. Yeah. She's playing. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, yeah. So I'm willing to give them the follow up. I'm willing to see what happens on Dynamite. I'm a bit with you in that. Like I think the execution of it was by far the best part of it. Can they fill those logic holes on Dynamite? That's probably the question, JP.
Oh, yeah. That will be the problem. But in many ways, I know it's going to sound really bad, they should be able to get away with it. Funny enough, of just not explaining, because the whole Timeless Toni Storm stuff is daft in the first place. So in many ways, it's just more daftness added onto it. So they should be able to get away with it. I did want to mention 2 other bits from Collision that I enjoyed. One of which I enjoyed was that mental Don Callis family bit in the mansion and stuff, and the way that was filmed. They are kind of clicking as a stable finally. This incarnation, weirdly.
They turned it around.
It's so random. It's so weird. And the way it was filmed with the pictures and other stuff like this, it's just like, this is so daft. And then teasing who the new member is going to be. I'm slightly fearful over who they'll get in there. And then it was just Jim Ross on commentary, still being an uppity fuck throughout the whole bit. But the Freddie Mercury stuff.
What was going on?
Match,
did he think it was Nakamura? Do you think he thought it was Nakamura? Because I think he did. I think he got confused. I think he just misremembered. Grandad Jim forgot.
But then it was like he went from, he was in headlining that band Queen and Freddie Mercury. Yeah, long miss. And he was like, had a great match. And it's like, I'm sorry, I missed the Freddie Mercury match. Who was that against? Giant Haystacks. Like, when did this match happen? This is lost on us. But it was weird because he comes back in. He's kind of fucking grumpy. And then he sort of disappears for a bit and then comes back at the very end for the main event, which is very much his type of wrestling, of which he did the laziest comparison of Shibata. He's like a young Antonio Inoki, and I was like, because he's Japanese and wears black trunks. Right, that's really where we're going here, Jim. You're just saying the quiet part out loud, mate. And it was like
Jesse Ventura talking about the snow and conspiracy theories is better than Jim Ross as a commentator in 2025. I'm sorry, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
He's-
is. Jim Ross is sometimes on though, like his call for Bryan and Swerve at All In, and then his call for the BCC turn at All Out. Those were, and his call of Bryan versus Moxley at Wrestle Dream. Those are all really good Jim Ross because he had spaced out his appearances. He was only doing the pay-per-views. Why do we have him back on weekly TV? Why are we doing that to him?
He thinks it's a podcast, doesn't he? He turns up and goes, "Yeah, this is terrible." Like, oh god, what? Back in my day, this wouldn't happen. It's like, Jim, we're on air. Like, you can't talk about the heels and baby faces and break down the fucking stories in that way.
All I want to do is Nigel McGuinness go, mate. You commentated on Choppy PP. You want to wind your neck in on this stuff? Like, really, you're in no position to tell people about, oh, this is daft. It's like you sat through 20 odd years of daft. You're wearing a fucking toga at WrestleMania 9, mate. Like, come on. I think Jim Ross is the worst shit you've ever seen.
His big moments are fleeting these days. Yeah, I'm with Simon. I don't think Jim Ross has been good since 2002. That's my hot take. But I'll take that one to the grave along with a Steve Austin GM. The gap has gotten bigger and bigger over time, and the misses are way more often than the hits for the odd time where he does pull it off. But even then, there'll still be a grumpy line in there that he can't help but filter his. He just can't filter his shoot feelings. He's your granddad. He will just say what's on his mind, and it's often not good. Especially when he's mixing up Nakamura and Okada. Not good stuff. But yeah, that's kind of it as far as AEW in-ring content goes before we do get out of here. I know we've kept you a while, Sid, so I do want to get some quick thoughts on your some ROH stuff. If you could stick around another 10 minutes or so. Is that all good? Good man.
Yeah. Good man.
Dynamite's on this week. We don't need to do a big preview, JP. Claudio versus Jeff for the possibility of Jeff getting a title shot. I might have been into that 18 months ago. I'm not into it now, even me. But then Jeff could work me into the building. Who knows? It is Jeff after all, but probably with this gang of losers. Mercedes Moné versus Yuka Sakazaki for the TBS title is on Dynamite this week. And Will Ospreay versus Brian Cage is the other match in there. Brian Cage, he's a warm body and he'll be all right in there with Ospreay. It'll be fun. More of that world. I want to see more of the Omega Powers. That's what I'm up for.
I will say I've enjoyed Brian Cage more in this role than I have throughout his entire run within AEW, pretty much. Like, this appears to be like, okay, he's like a low-level henchman. And you know what? I'm kind of fine with that.
You can imagine him, can't you? Yeah. In like Turtles or something like that. As like the guy stood behind Quango or something like that. He's perfect, isn't he?
And he's in a big bloke tag team.
And this works for both of them because I felt like Lance Archer looked like the most formidable member of the Don Callis family during that brawl last week because it took both Omega and Ospreay to take him out. That was the best Lance Archer's looked in a while.
Yeah.
I want to see some good follow-up for the Hate Syndicate this week as well. Again, that's the other thing that Dynamite that deserves its praise. Like, sometimes you just gotta recognize that Private Party deserved a better shake than they got, and I'm quite low on Private Party's prospects. But if you're going to go with them, and they didn't. However, at the point last week's Dynamite happened, and at the point Hate Syndicate are getting over to the point they're getting over, you do. That's where you do pivot, and it feels like a pivot happened. And Hate Syndicate is the fucking guys in that tag division I want to see going forward. I'm excited. I was negative on the rumor in that Swerve isn't going to get his win back against Lashley, but the more you sit with it, it's right for now. Lashley should continue to be dominant, and maybe in 6 months, in 9 months, absolutely one day Swerve should get that win back because the money in Swerve in AEW is much larger than the money in Lashley at this point in his career. But it's timing, isn't it? Get back to that in 6 months. For now, I want to see those lads launch more people around, and while it's hot, go with it. It's really good stuff. I want to see more of that on Dynamite this week.
If Swerve turned up on TV and in 6 months' time went, I haven't forgotten the fact you beat me.
Yes.
Like, you would completely
just switch Hangman Swerve, wouldn't it?
Because that's what he can do. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll
so
get that
I feel like both guys have gone on to better things. You got Bobby Lashley doing the tag team titles. You got Swerve and Ricochet becoming one of the better heel characters in AEW. So I think that everybody
with Stokely. I reckon they are. I reckon Ricochet and Stokely's in his future.
I would actually like that a lot. I did not think about that. And I've been asking, where the hell is my man Stokely at? I was thinking more to follow up with what he was doing before. He comes in and he's like, well, you see, Private Party, y'all won the titles. That's good, but y'all title reign sucked. Y'all need me. Like, I thought they would follow up with that. He could come back to him and be like, oh, I was right in the long run.
It would make more sense than the way he got punked out that week, but it's all worked out for all of the characters involved. Another one where trust the process, I guess. Follow the let it play out. We've learned that this year. But some other quick AEW notes. I mentioned it before, but Zack Sabre Jr. is proposing a match with Ospreay at Forbidden Door. I'm sold. That's the match, isn't it? As soon as you tell me that. Like, absolutely, in the UK, Forbidden Door, you obviously do Zack Ospreay. And if they don't do it, Rev Pro should fucking steal it and do it in the Copper Box the night before. Yeah. That match should be happening that weekend. There's no reason not to.
Oh, God, that's the biggest sort of no-brainer match for those two guys. And given their positions in the company, I think the only thing that's a little bit I'm not sad about it is I don't want to see Ospreay ultimately losing to Omega and then losing to Zack Sabre Jr. because there's still the point where I want to see him getting those big substantial wins. But for that show,
beat him, he can lose in the Dome. Do a rematch then. New Japan beggars can't be choosers. If you tell New Japan you can have Will Ospreay for a Dome show, they say and Ospreay would jump at it too. Fuck, you can make that deal. You can work that out.
But I also, it's definitely the match to do because it ticks so many boxes, and if they again push it properly, do a proper media blitz and stuff like that, you've got what is the two best British wrestlers of this modern generation in a singles match as part of a sort of career defining fuse that they've had and the different dynamics. That's the one. It's an absolute no brainer to do that one for Forbidden Door.
Definitely.
Yeah, it seems like the type of matchup to do. Zach did also mention he would love to face Swerve Strickland and MJF. I wouldn't mind if you're not going to do Zach and Will Ospreay. I wouldn't mind Zach versus Swerve. I think that would be a good plan B if you wanted to. I think the only thing that would be my obstacle with that match of Sabre Jr. versus Ospreay is I don't want Ospreay to take that many losses. I literally said when they did the first. When they did the first stare down between Omega and Ospreay, I was like, Ospreay needs to only lose once this year, and it's to Kenny Omega to set up Kenny going for the world title. That's it. And the rest of the year, he wins.
Those four guys, that should be the case. Omega, Ospreay, Swerve, Hangman should all lose once this year and to each other, probably. Create a hierarchy. AEW's never had that. Have a proper hierarchy and your stars should win more than they lose. Absolutely.
And if you've got a loose end for All In Texas and you just think we can get the IWGP champion defending his title against Swerve Strickland, I don't think anyone would have any particular problem with that at all.
No. Speaking of big weekends coming up, with a quick AEW/ROH news notes. Glad you're here, Sid. Supercard of Honor apparently is not going to be taking place at Mania weekend this year. It was my initial reaction to that story was, and what? It's not been the same Supercard as it was for years. I guess when you think about it, with some of the shite we all sit through on WrestleMania weekend, it has still been the best show of the weekend, most of those Mania weekends. But I always thought it was bad optics for AEW/ROH to be following WWE around, especially if Double or Nothing's moving from Vegas because of WrestleMania happening. I just think it's better to move that elsewhere now. I don't think it's a tradition worth keeping alive. There were some news notes on whether there was some kind of AEW policy or mandate which would stop their wrestlers working anywhere over WrestleMania weekend. But obviously your friend Cassidy Haynes, SP3 of Bodyslam.net, has said that is not the case, and there's no difference for any other time period as far as restrictions go on AEW talent over that weekend. And the last ROH news note, it comes at a time when Chris Jericho has said in an interview with TV Insider that apparently Tony Khan has been fielding a few offers for streaming platforms for ROH. Do we have any guesses on where your favourite show and mine, Sid, ROH, might line up, and will he actually put any effort in the year of our Lord 2025? Just for you, mate. Just for you in that post show.
I have some updates for y'all. So ROH for the past year and a half since AEW Dark left, it's been ROH Dark pretty much because it just has random matches, has a couple of squads. This past week, they had the 100th episode of ROH TV on Honor Club, and what I said on the post show was, this did not feel like Dark, it felt like Rampage. Because they don't have Rampage anymore, so now ROH has elevated to Rampage.
Moved up.
Because because the show consisted of them putting over people that lost on Collision or will lose on Collision, and then they had an angle to set up the main event of Collision with Takeshita showing up on ROH for the first time with Don Callis to challenge Shibata because Shibata won the main event against Shane Taylor. I was like, this is Rampage. This would have been Rampage this week. If Rampage was still around, it would have not been ROH TV. It would have been Rampage. So I'll take that. I'll take the wins. I'm taking crumbs at this point when it comes to Ring of Honor. I think they made the right choice of moving Supercard of Honor. I would like them to go in the direction of doing the ROH pay-per-views on the same weekend as AEW pay-per-views. I think that will create like the vibe of like a whole wrestling weekend. You can kind of dominate whatever city you go to. My biggest kind of change I would do is I would just move Supercard of Honor. WrestleMania moved back 2 weeks. Just do Supercard of Honor what WrestleMania was gonna be, which is the same weekend as Dynasty. Put it in Philadelphia in Locos along with Dynasty. Have it the night before or the night at whatever you want to do. Just keep it on the AEW pay-per-view weekend.
They could just run all the classic, like, where do AEW do most of the shows now? It's the Northeast. Just run all the classic ROH venues, you know? Just get them for those weekends and, you know, find the National Guard Armory still a thing. ROH used to run loads of them. You could find them. Rahway, New Jersey, run there. Yeah, there you go.
2,300 for Supercard of Honor. Like, if they're doing
Rexplex, is that still a thing? Go there.
NXT made the 2,300 arena look incredible. Like it is doable. Yeah. It's not like it's not like it's
Chicago Ridge on Chicago weekends. Run there. That old ROH stronghold. Like you could do that and light it up and make it look good and get the hardcores in and give them a reason to be in on the weekend. Like that is that's real. There's a lot of things that are a no-brainer about like improving whatever this ROH is. We were joking on weekend show like between us, me and JP might have seen 2 full episodes of ROH since it went on Honor Club, and we talk about it every week because it's like, well, this is what happened. Can you believe these results are real? Meanwhile, you know, you're suffering through the content every week. Like, those solutions are easy. They really are.
I have to take notes during these shows. Really bad. It's been really bad since Mark. I used to be like take solace, and we used to get like one Mark Briscoe promo or something like that, where I would do, you do something, you don't do it, and we win, and we got the kids. I got some little salt in my bed. I used to do all that, and that was fun. But now Mark Briscoe's not here. It's not as fun.
It's not the same. But there we go. We had to have you on for the ROH stories as the man who knows on that. And obviously we've kept you longer than we said we would, so we appreciate you sticking with us. We'll let you run, mate, before we close things out. I was going to say plugs and where people can find you on the internet. Everywhere. Is pretty much the answer there. Lots going on. What's going on at the minute in the wild world of True Heel Heat?
So right now over at True Heel Heat, you can see the flagship podcast, True Heel Heat. We do every Saturday. It was myself, Miss Chrissy Love, True Draw Josh. We talked about Britt Baker being finished in AEW. We talked about Nikki Bella's potential return to WWE and all that good stuff. So go over and check that out. We did a Saturday night's main event review yesterday. We also, for members of the channel, if you want to become a member for just $1 a month, I did a thorough breakdown for anyone who isn't on Twitter and did not know about wrestling, the internet wrestling community going to hell last week. I did a new show that's called IWC Cooked that went over the story of Air Gold and AEW backstage drama. So go over and check that out. I did play some of the clips. If you want to be a member, that's the best reason to become a member. What a fucking mess that whole thing is. Yeah, it was. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. People ruining their careers out here. Like, I don't know. But
sometimes the DMs should stay in the DMs. I reckon that's probably a good advice.
Sometimes if wrestlers tell you stuff, you should just not say it on audio. Yeah.
Or never speak to wrestlers. That's my advice. Or
never speak to wrestlers. Yeah, that too.
That often makes it a lot easier.
You can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. My schedule for this week, I'll be on Fightful Overbook tomorrow. I'll probably be talking about some traders. So I'm gonna bring the traders stuff because I put my guy Jeremy onto traders. We got FMC tomorrow, the final FMC, because I am now going to be the co-host for Jeremy on In the Weeds, which is their busted open radio version of Fightful over there on Fightful Overbook every Tuesday and Thursday starting in February. So you can check me out over there. You can check me out over on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. I'll be reviewing Raw on Netflix. Then today I dropped every single Royal Rumble winner ranked on sportsillustrated.com. This thing took me like a couple of days to write because there's 35 different winners of the Royal Rumble and I had to rank every single one of them. So go over and check that out. That's probably up on si.com
Who finishes
right now.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan or Alberto Del Rio. You have to go to sportsillustrated.com to find
Oh no!
out. Anyway.
Oh no! I'll give you who was last place. It was easy. It's Vince. It was Vince. It was
Oh,
Vince. I was like,
okay.
I was like, I knew number one and I knew the bottom. I was like, it's Vince, and then I worked my way through the middle.
Brilliant. Well, yeah,
Brilliant
check out
stuff.
all of SB3 stuff, wherever it is. Hopefully, swing round your lot again soon. Send our love to the guys. Love Truly Heat. It's my home away from home. And yeah, we'll have to do something again together soon. Hopefully,
For sure.
people
Mate, it's been
And we gotta get
brilliant. Thank
JP
you
on.
so much.
When you're
Mate,
not
yes,
with the
do
kids,
that.
we got to get you on a Saturday. We got to get both of you.
I'll see you in 18
Get him when
years,
JJ's
though,
on.
man.
I want to see that. JJ in the garden with a beer, JP with a spliff on a Saturday afternoon. That's the show of my dreams. That's what I
I'm
want to
game. Fucking game.
Sign me up. Thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Mate,
Anytime,
thank
Thanks for coming on,
just
mate.
let me know. Just let me know.
It's been
I'll
a
be
star.
back.
You've been legend, mate. Cheers, Sid, mate.
See you,
Thank you,
mate.
guys.
Catch you soon.
Later.
See you later.
Oh,
There we go. What a man. So yeah, follow SB3 everywhere he is, which is everywhere pretty much these days, JP. But yeah, isn't too much left really to cover. Probably only go another 10 minutes or so. But yeah, thank you to Sid for sparing us time with us tonight. The only other stories we kind of add on here, unless there's any more wrestling you've watched this weekend, JP. Did you happen to watch the Progress show from the weekend? I guess you didn't.
No.
Progress, sorry,
A lot of people
GCW show
complaining about it.
at the
A
ballroom.
lot of complaints about it. People complaining they lost their spot. And it's just like, where were you back in the fucking day? Like, geez,
Yeah, with
Jesus
us, were
Christ.
they? 9
No, they
years
weren't.
ago, as we figured out on weekend. The day we recorded the weekend show on Friday was 9 years to the day me and JP
Mate.
first met at the Electric Ballroom. Yeah,
Beautiful thing. But it was always the idea. I remember going to the 100 show as well, and people complaining. They said, "You're stood in our spot," and it's like, mate, I'm stood on the fucking stairs, like round the back. Like, what the hell are you talking about? I didn't take their spot at all for that sort of stuff. But no, there was no chance after watching like too much of the People versus GCW. There was no way in fucking hell that I was going to watch a second of that as well. And yeah, it was. I mean, it drew some people inexplicably. I'm not quite sure exactly how that happened, but there you go. But instead, we got this instead.
Well, on that note, what was announced at GCW's Electric Ballroom show is that Bloodsport is hitting the UK. Unfortunately, this week came via world's biggest gobshite, Josh Barnett. So I'm not. I don't think it would have got me down to the Electric Ballroom again anyway for a Bloodsport. Although maybe you could have taught me into it, and it's around September time. But yeah, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport announced for September at the Ballroom. And expectations, and here we go. Karen O'Hara doing a shoot Spanish fly. Oh wait, the bloke who did that signed to NXT these days. Anything that could get you there, JP?
I fear the worst for which British guys they get into the mix, because he won't be like Tetsujin, which was like an odd kind of spectacle. I went to, obviously, it was one of their shows that we were at in Liverpool as well, and we couldn't see, like, and a lot of it because it's so map based, you couldn't see the ring. So it was like, what the fuck? It was like we ended up stood behind watching it on monitors behind the G-man who was doing the production for the show before he went over to Noah. So it was just like a weird thing. I mean, who could you bring in for it? You know, Lou Nixon's going to be there. You know, there's going to be a whole load of faux MMA Cara Noir. Feels like that'll be a sight. Probably with the makeup off. It'll be the usual Progress lads. That's what you're expecting. A few kind of other imports in there. I can't think of like some like former MMA. They're not going to get Paul Daly coming in just doing like worked MMA and stuff. There is a part of me that feels the chance of going to see it, there is a novelty to it. My fear is, and there's the general principle involved of some of the people involved, I don't want to give them a penny of my fucking money. So like there is that, and that's quite a powerful feeling on my part where I'm just like, actually, I don't like, am I that bothered to see it?
I know Mikey's saying here, Luke Jacobs and Manders was a slapfest. Master Flamovich was great to see live. I bet you was. I think Ben went as well. He was saying he had a good time at the show as well. So fair play to anyone who did. I wish I'd gone to GPW on Sunday. I believe there was a small man in a WWE car who might have turned up on Sunday to to Hindley. I don't. I have an unconfirmed rumor. I'd like to do more digging on that story, but he's fishing rounds. Can't keep him away, can you? I wondered if he was at GCW as well. But yeah, it did sound like it. Main event aside, it was a decent little show. Yeah, the second Effie's music with a hit, I would have left. If you even found me there in the first place. But yeah, outside that, other news stories. Time Mello's getting some. I didn't really want to mention this too much, but like people freaking out because Sammy Guevara tweeted a spot with Cody Rhodes. Time Mello jumping on the tweet as well, pushing for Sammy versus Cody 4. I mean, good luck. Maybe you'll get it in Cody's indie run in 20 years. I don't know what time. Should have asked Sid about that. I can't imagine what Sammy Guevara's prospects were. Although this Dustin tag team feel like that it's right in along as where he should be in the world at this point.
And that's it. Like, where is there a role for him in wrestling necessarily? Weirdly, you probably say his best route, if he's ever going to WWE, is to leave and to go to TNA. Yeah. And there he would need to probably buck his ideas up from the last run and stuff like that. And it just need to be like him going in there, like having to kind of reprove himself all over again. He's just spinning his heels. There is natural talent there. Like it's not babyface talent at all. It's just like the guy is a natural heel if ever there was one. But that's his only route into that company. But a Cody match on main roster WWE isn't happening unless Cody's working a fucking TV match. Like, that is basically it. But this is the problem you find a lot with AEW, where there's so many wrestlers who are spinning their heels when they could just be put out on loan. You should be, like you mentioned about Nick Wayne earlier on, not getting the reps in. He should be working all these fucking indies. That's the thing that really bothers me. They've missed such a trick when it comes for all of that stuff. But yeah, it's not happening. Ty Mello going back to WWE. I mean, again, if you put them,
she was the hot thing in AEW for a while. I was like, the hope in that women's division. Like, people forget.
And I think it was at a time as well where it was just fresh faces. Like, again, it's just the thing I'll always come back to. It's like, it's people who you don't feel like you've seen the best of their career, and they kind of reinvent themselves when they end up in an AEW. And you think, oh, okay, they do have something to them. Let's see where we go here. But yeah, that match ain't happening. Not on main roster WWE.
Well, on that note, and I think a nice and finally story to wrap us up, JP, that is apparently broken this evening. Jack Wannon, friend of the show, who I met while I was out in Toronto, great man, is put on the post-wrestling site. MLS apparently have moved studios to be in the WWE headquarters. So MLS's TV production is now being done from Stamford, Connecticut. Major League Soccer for the English and Spanish broadcasts for this upcoming season is going to be taking place in Stamford. This is from the new WWE HQ, not the old one, which apparently they've sold and is turning into flats, which it kind of feels like half a disgrace. If anyone listened to Benno and Hamflet in Your House, latest episode with Matty is currently up on the feed. I'll plug that harder in a little minute. But we did a whole housekeeping show talking about my visit to HQ, and when I stayed at the Red Carpet Inn over the road, and it was so cool to kind of see that place in real life. Sullied a little bit with the stories that apparently happened within those walls since, and they probably should light it on fire and get rid of the entire thing. But yeah, turning into flats now, which does seem like a historic thing. But this is the one down the road that it's going to be going from. Do you see any crossover there with the MLS?
Well, fuck me. If they can get Leo Messi to fucking make any kind of just appearance, that would be a massive deal, and what the traction it'd get. It's weird because that's where that Irish bloke who was called, they renamed him Kevin Patrick. Didn't they? For
that's where he came from?
That's where he works for MLS. He does the coverage for it's Apple TV, who have most of the MLS stuff. So it used to always appear on there, but you had to pay a season pass. And well, that's not fucking happening. I'm not paying fucking season pass to watch MLS. My sister, who lives in America and loves football, has zero interest in MLS. I've got more. I'm like, do you go and watch Philadelphia Union? She's like, no. Why the fuck would I?
Didn't even
know
that was Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just she wouldn't have any part of it. It is an interesting thing. I know this was kind of tied into the idea a few years ago, where they spoke about using WWE productions to do various other live events because they were so good at it, and it's such a well-oiled machine that you could utilize it. This is kind of an easy way of making a few quid, of being able to kind of host these, because they've got the technical expertise, they've got the TV production, they've got the studio space as well. It's a good shout. I mean, and Nick Khan is never a man to turn down an opportunity for synergy and cross promotion. If if there's a few like US, like the US men's and women's team, particularly the women's team, to be honest, rather than the men's, there'd be bigger names in the States. Like if they could get them turning up for their product and turning up to like an episode of Raw and stuff, there's a few little things that they could put into the mix and they could kind of move that around. I mean, I don't follow like MLS as much as I should do, but I also feel at the same time that this is still like it's the kind of stuff that they can do. They basically outsource themselves to kind of cover these. I've managed to filibuster a little bit about MLS there while you'd
StreamYard
the same collapse that I'm waiting to happen to me at any second.
StreamYard giving up on us as we have gone over the Magic 3 hour mark tonight, including pre-show as well. But no, a good little story to round us out. Unless you want to mention the Stardom Wars before we get out of here, JP. I included this in the rundown because I thought you might have a take on it. No,
I'm looking at the list on here, and it's just like they're giving stuff out on it. I don't know what the Shining Award stands for. Obviously got the skill, fighting spirit, outstanding performances. Like, these not the same things. It'd be like the Oscars category suddenly creating 4 categories for like lead actors. It's like, it doesn't really make too much sense. It also is more of a damning indictment, probably, of where Stardom is at this point in time, and the fact that they are very much on the kind of rebuild as well. But I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know, and how many of them are going to be there? Because that's always the big story, is how many people are now coming to the end of their contract and going to marry gold, and what is the position for this? And New Japan never capitalized on when they had that buzz and they had that kind of like, you felt they were going somewhere and they could have really gone on and pushed it, and they never did.
Well, there we go. That's the end of the news and the end of Spotlight this week. Fun show this week. Enjoyed that.
Great.
Bringing the energy there. Thought that was a lot of fun. But the fun doesn't stop there. Obviously, we had SP3 on the pre-show, as mentioned there. Talked a little bit. We haven't got his Gran of the weekend. How about that for a plug for the Patreon? Definitely get yourself over there if you want to find out what SP3's vote would be. But yeah, jam-packed month, JP, is just about coming to an end. We've still got the Royal Rumble 2001 flashback to come out. The most hated non-wrestlers patrons choice show is out right now. I know that's a 3-hour monster. I know people are working their way through that as well. Didn't get enough love for me, but Steen and Generico, our King of the Mountain show with Samuel Mulvaney was a corker and a great trip down memory lane, both from a match and an angle point of view as well. Even if we had all had some mixed thoughts, I think, on the show itself. Definitely listen to that to hear it. And like you say, early in the month we had the Tokyo Joshi Pro show with you and Cameron, which was just great too. And yeah, if you want all of that, best time to jump in, get it for £1 cheaper than it'll be starting next month, and we will honour that price going forward as well. And we are, of course, honouring that price for our existing patrons at all levels. But yeah, definitely get on board over the next few days. Payday's coming up. It's January's over with. It's time to join us, and Dealer's Choice is coming up in February too.
You've got 3 days to capitalise on it, guys. All probably, certainly for the bonus tier, or for the price of a pint in London. If that, really, honestly, you can't do better value for that. There is a hell of a back catalogue as well. God knows now the sheer volume of shows that we've recorded at this stage. But yeah, get yourself across there. Patreon.com/grapple, YouTube.com/@grapple.
Absolutely. And yeah, more where that come from. Even better benefits coming up in February as well. We're going to be live for the vast majority of our bonus shows on top of everything as well. Bit more video, bit more everything coming up on the Patreon. So lots to look forward to. But yeah, it's been as Simon says there, get listening to it, to the Steen and Generico show. It was definitely a corker, and we'll have more fun coming up in February. But on that note, JP, yeah, go for folks. Have a great week. I'll be on with Matty on the weekend show on Thursday, previewing the Royal Rumble card in full. We'll have the Royal Rumble 2001 flashback up this week as well. And anything else to throw out there, JP?
All I have to say is bye.
Good night, all. Have a great week.